Good afternoon, good people. Good afternoon. How you doing? Welcome to Deconstructed Christianity. I am your host, Coach Renz. And today our conversation is about the Old Testament. Did it ever happen? Israelites didn't exist until the 14th century BCE. And because of that notion, all these stories are invalidated. We can invalidate pretty much all these stories since there's no historical agreement that any of these people actually existed. No Israelite existed before the 14th century. There's no such thing as an Israelite. Now, I know Abraham is not considered technically an Israelite. He's a Sumerian who came out of the city of Ur, at best an Akkadian who came out of the city of Ur and then converted over to the Canaanite religion and becomes a Canaanite who later on they separate and call themselves Israelites. But all these stories of the Israelites are known to have come from the Canaanite pantheon, the Canaanite stories, mythologies, and a mixture of other mythologies as well from the Sumerians, Akkadians, and everybody else. And most people had a relatively similar idea in those days of how the creation of all things and gods and goddesses and things of that nature. So there's a lot of overlap that you can point to and say that these people just had common themes by their observation of nature. But what we do see in the archaeology is that all these Old Testament thought processes and things, stories that they claim, that we don't see them matching up with history. But there are no Israelites. It is a group that is just as made up like Americans. Americans is a made up group. Americans is a group that did not exist before the Revolutionary War. Before that, they were colonists who happened to be in the Americas. But it is not until after the Revolutionary War that you have the advent of Americans. So if you cannot look at, you look at some of the French and Indian War and say, well, Americans fought in that war. Well, technically you can, but no one was calling them Americans when they fought in the French and Indian War. But the place didn't exist. And those people have a history of where they came from. No native people wouldn't have been calling themselves Americans because they didn't call this place America. So they wouldn't have been utilizing the term Americas. So there is no such thing really as Americans until the Revolution in 1776. The same way with these so-called Israelites. With the first mentioning that we have of an Israelite, it doesn't come about until 1204 BCE with the Merneptah Stela. The Merneptah Stela is when Pharaoh Merneptah said that he utterly conquered a group of nomadic people called Israelites. They were conquered, defeated by the Egyptians. Before that, they were Canaanites. Before Canaanites, if Abraham actually did ever existed, which he did not, they would have been Akkadians, Sumerians. There is no Israelite. And because we don't have any proof that of Abraham's existence, any proof of Jacob, any proof of Noah, there's no proof of any of those people. So therefore, there is no such thing as Israelites until a group of people decided to call themselves that. And that happened so late that these stories of Genesis, these stories of the flood, these stories of the Tower of Babel, Abraham, all this is made up stuff. And even when they began to call themselves Israelites according to the Bible, we still don't have any archaeological evidence that Israelites actually existed. No one was calling them Israelites. There were no slaves in Egypt that were called Israelites. Here you are. First person up here. What's your name?
Hey, my name is Terrius. Or you can just call me Patrick.
How you doing, Patrick? How are you over 21?
24.
All right. Are you a believer in the Bible?
I am not.
Okay.
So I don't know if this is the spot know what side you're on.
Yeah, they never existed. It's a
Yeah,
made-up
man,
story.
like, I agree. Well, actually, do you know anything about the Hybiru
Yeah. So
or the Shansu?
yeah, the Hybiru and the Shanshu people, which is one of the claims that people try to make and say that those were the original Israelites, but those were different groups of people as well.
Well, they were the founders for what we like, I guess, what is conventionally called a Canaanite. But an Israelite, I mean, I guess it'd be hard to find the Israelites because you can't really find the Amobites or
I would
any of
I
the
would
other ones.
I would say the Shashu could possibly be
The Canaanites.
Canaanites. I wouldn't give that to the Hebrew people because the Hebrew people
Right.
were a band of mercenaries and robbers and came from multiple different groups.
Were.
Well, the Shashu were a nomadic little tribe of people that first started down in like the Sinai Peninsula and the Arabian Peninsula and then migrated up north to the Levant.
So how about the Hyksos?
Oh, the Hyksos? They could have merged into so it is my perspective that the Hyksos, when they were kicked out of Egypt, after who was it? Thutmose III, I believe, one of the pharaohs around that time frame, kicked them out. That they merged with the people that were already there and merged with the Shashu people and became part of the Canaanites. But I think they probably became parts of multiple different cultures, in that region.
Right. Oh yeah. Well, and that's what. So the whole, I guess, the whole thing about the chattel warfare, and this is. Do you know anything about like how we got the chariots?
How we got what chariots?
How Egypt got like war chariots?
Well, they already had some chariots. It's just the Hyksos brought in a better model of chariots.
Right. Like they had, for the most part, different animals that they were using, like in total. But that's how they actually got in. So I guess evidence shows that they were not only selling some of these animals to the Egyptians, but they were also migrating amongst the mercenary class of the Egyptians to basically, show them the efficiency of chariot warfare.
Yeah.
And then using those chariots, like you're saying, Thutmose, he ran them up out of there using the techniques that they had actually brought.
Right.
So that's why I thought it was interesting. As far as those people, they possibly did exist, but they absolutely did not exist according to the perspective of the Bible.
No, exactly. I agree with you 100% on that one. They didn't exist.
Yeah. Well, no, man, I think you beat.
Okay.
I think this is good work here, but I'll let you get on.
All right, appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, have a good one. Thanks.
Yes, well.
Let's see. We got a couple other people that popped up. I didn't see the complete order. Let's see if I can get it in somewhat of the order that people popped up. Okay, some people just clicked on it by accident, I'm assuming. Oh, I hate how there's a delay. Atheist Church, what is your name?
Adam.
Adam? And are you over 21?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I would think based on your name there that you have you don't believe in these stories.
Well, the Noah's flood, like there could have been like a global flood, like that's not like I think something clearly like might have happened. I don't know if it was a flood or it seems like there was advanced civilizations that got wiped out. I mean, there could have been a flood, and the story could have been based on a previous old story, like some guy in the raft or something. But and then the Tower of Babel, like I mean, it's a mythological story, but I think the Babylonian language should get wiped out or something. But
no,
I don't think they're building a tower. But
so as far as a worldwide flood, the closest thing we have to a worldwide flood would be the Younger Dryas flood, which never covered the tops of any mountains. It just went it rose sea level by 400 feet. So just think 400 feet of coastal area was drowned. So if you were like in Montana, you never experienced this flood that they claim.
I mean, obviously, when it there's no way to cover the tops of mountains and stuff, but like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much, or if you had the ice age unthawing, maybe that would cause a lot of rain or something like.
Well, that's the Younger Dryas. That's the Younger Dryas flood.
What, a lot of rain, you said?
Not so much rain, but there was a rapid melting of the ice age from the last rapid melting of the ice from the previous ice age, and you did have a Younger Dryas freeze, and then a rapid increase in temperature, and then the ice caps all melted. Well, not the ice caps, but all the a lot of the ice melted immediately over like a 6-7 day period, and so we have this. You might have had some tidal waves, some tsunamis, but that would have been about. I mean, that's devastating enough, but that would have been about it. The Persian Gulf seems like it developed 10 feet of. It lost 10 feet of shoreline per day, and that was formed the Persian Gulf. Before that, it was land, because we can see ancient rivers up under the Persian Gulf.
Huh. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. So as far as, and now you're right, these stories then get passed down based on most likely this Younger Dryas flood. They get passed down as worldwide floods. That's why there are 3 Mesopotamian flood stories before you get the Noah's flood stories.
You said it's called Younger Dryas flood?
Yeah, the Younger Dryas, Dryas.
Younger Dryas flood. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So go down the can of worms on that one.
Yeah, and some of the evidence that you're going to find is going to be like off the coast of Japan. There's seems to be a somewhat of a city that was once above ground. The ancient rivers that are in the Persian Gulf. So the Persian Gulf used to be green. So, and then I forgot where in Southwest Asia, you're going to find in Southwest Asia where they have temples and buildings that were coastal and they're under the water. Along the chain of islands that make up like Bali and all of those islands, you're going to see where it used to be a complete one land bridge. And Madagascar, you'll see that Madagascar used to be a hell of a lot bigger. I'm not going to go all the way to the whole Lemuria size, but it was a lot bigger. So there's tons of evidence for a Younger Dryas flood all over the world.
Wikipedia says the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis is a widely refuted fringe hypothesis for the cause of sudden influx of fresh water into the ocean. My goodness.
I would look at who they're citing. Wikipedia can be good in one instance, but then in another instance, not so much. Try Google Scholar. Have you ever used Google Scholar before?
I mean, it's just like, I guess that's the narrative they're pushing. Though it's the first result, but yeah, I mean, clearly something had like, I don't know, like, I mean, there's pretty clear evidence. Like, I mean, the sea levels change and stuff. It won't be. I know how to do Google and stuff. I just was reading the first result. Like,
yeah,
I'll take you over Wikipedia. Like shit.
I tend to use Google Scholar because you can get you'll get PhD papers on there. Now it's tedious because you'll have different papers written by different people, and then you have to look up where those people are writing these stories based off on, where they're writing their PhD, their dissertation, what school they're involved with, and then understand the politics of that school. And then you also have archaeological journals, so you can find those as well. So I
go to White TV video site then they can, because that'll be cool to watch the animations and stuff.
Gotcha. No, I understand.
Especially,
and as far as the Babylonian language lasted far longer than the whole Tower of Babel story supposedly happened. The Tower of Babel story supposedly happened somewhere around 2500, 2400 BCE. But we still have the Babylonian language all the way into the towards the end of the 5th century BCE, 5th century BCE, we still had the Babylonian language. Oh, he dropped. He had to go. Appreciate you. I only do one person at a time, for those who are wondering. And I like when people try to use some type of reverse psychology. Oh, you scared to let me up. You'll get up if you come up in the turn. But I can tell you, start preaching, I'll cut you off. Don't do preaching. Perry. Oh, Perry was accidental, I'm thinking. Lit boy, what's that? Lit boy Max. Thank you, Haley. Lit boy Max. Lit boy Max. Now here's what's funny. Lit boy Max was in the comments talking all type of trash. Oh, I'm coming up. I want to preach. Then Lit boy Max. Damn, about time.
Yo, what's up?
How you doing? How old are you?
I'm 26.
Okay. And all right, I'm assuming that you're a believer based on your comments.
I believe in fiverism.
In what?
Fiverism.
What is that?
It's the religion I created.
Okay.
I'm trying to speak the truth.
We don't do any preaching on here.
You are doing preaching whenever you're trying to argue all this Noah floods and all that. That didn't happen.
So what's your proof? What's your proof that the earth is flat?
There's a lot of proof. The sea level changing, that's one of them.
Oh wait,
Noah's flood.
let me cut you off right here. I don't get into flat earth conversations. It's a stupid conversation.
Now you're scared to argue about it, right?
No, I'm not scared. It's dumb. It's dumb.
What's dumb about it? You tell me what's dumb about it. Tell me what's dumb about it, huh?
I don't do. There are certain conversations I don't even have. Flat Earth is one of them. I don't have time for flat Earth conversation. SA ranking gave 440 gems. I don't know what gems are, but thank you for whatever they are. Appreciate that. Any support of the channel, I greatly appreciate. So thank you very, very much. Now, the only type of flat earth conversation that I ever get involved in is the fact that if you are a believer in the Bible, then you should believe that the earth is flat, which scientifically is idiotic. Getting into all these different little bullshit people. How can water stay on a ball? How are you spinning 1,000 miles per hour? All that stuff is stupid. It's like they never heard of any other laws of physics. Like you have to get rid of all the laws of physics in order to believe in that. Like no torque, no centrifugal force. Get rid of all that stuff. Can't have centrifugal force. Can't have an atmosphere when it comes to that type of stuff. Perry. Hello. You there?
Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh yes, we're doing good.
Good.
How you doing?
Pretty good. Are you over 21?
I am over 21.
Good. And are you a believer in the Bible?
I am not, respectfully though. Respectfully.
Oh, I don't believe in it either. So.
Okay. You never know nowadays. So I was curious what your thoughts are on. You ever heard of Göbekli Tepe? This structure?
Yeah.
Okay. What are your thoughts on the fact that they date this to about 11,000 years ago, to around the Younger Dryas flood? In the timeline of what they conventionally think is the story of humanity. What are your thoughts on that? I'm curious.
The story of who?
Oh, they date this structure, Göbekli Tepe, to about 10 to 12,000 years ago. A very
right. Got that part. You said this,
complex.
but you said somebody's story.
The mainstream narrative of humanity and civilization.
Oh, humanity.
They say it started on, like they say that timeline's about 6,500 years ago, but this structure is dated about many thousands years before that.
Right.
So I'm curious, do you think there was humanity or civilization, advanced civilizations 10 to 12,000 years ago before people think it started?
Oh, most certainly. And
okay.
let me clarify what I call civilization. Anytime you have a group of people, regardless of their technology, are living together as a unit, then that is civilization. You don't have to have certain technology. I know a lot of people want to say, oh, unless they have a language, unless they have writing, unless they have farming, they're not a civilization yet. Yeah, I don't. If you put 100 people on an island, that's a and they live together with rules, that's a civilization. So the Göbekli Tepe does show that these people understood. They looked at the sky, they saw shapes in the sky, they imprinted those on the T-pillars. They were a combination of hunter-gatherers and farmers, is one of the latest things that I saw about them. One of the latest discoveries, that it was a place that they stayed at. Where are you?
We're at work right now. I'm sorry, it might be a little loud. Is the noise getting a little crazy?
It's some kind of like in a laundromat with that presser, that steam presser that goes.
Oh yeah. We got a bunch of compressed air over here.
Oh, okay.
Bunch of compressed air. But anyways, okay.
But yeah, so I think those are. I
go back to that. Don't even know about it.
Yeah, what I hate is that Turkey is already turning it into a tourist trap.
Yeah.
And so, then they planted. I mean, I know they planted those trees, which is going to mess up the excavation site because it's much larger than what they've shown. You know, the LiDAR has shown that it's far bigger than what they've excavated thus far, but Turkey was so in the rush to make money off of it that it's only like 5-10% excavated.
What do you think about hybridism?
Hybridism?
Okay.
What is hybridism?
Yeah, you know, well.
Oh, he got disconnected. I don't know where he works. That's a lot of noise. A lot of noise. Dude, I'm not bringing you back up here to talk about flat Earth. I'm not talking about flat Earth. It happened, all of it, God's word. And yeah, I need you to prove it happens. And if you come with anything that's Ron Wyatt, which is another one of those conversations I don't even bother with. If you are going to talk about Ron Wyatt's discoveries, then it shows that you have not done any research on Ron Wyatt, or the fact that none of his stuff has been peer reviewed. So no ark has been found, no chariots have been found, no blood, none of that stuff has been found. And it's amazing we can dig up all these other things, but not one aspect, none of the biblical people we have found. Things that should corroborate their stories, we have not found. But we can find all this other stuff on the ground. We haven't found anything that demonstrates that Joshua conquered the Levant when he claims that he conquered it. What we found is other civilizations that were thriving during that time frame, and depending upon the time frame, that were either a hodgepodge of different Canaanite city-states, or until around the 1500s when they got conquered by the Egyptians again, and it was on the Egyptian rule until about 1000. And then the Egyptians lost after the Bronze Age collapse. They lost control of the Levant, and then around 925, we have some Egyptians come in and reconquer the Levant for about a year, and then they get kicked out again. And 925 supposedly is that time frame of David and Solomon, or right before it. But we don't have anything. Only thing we have about David is one stela that is the Tel Dan stela, and it says that this king conquered and utterly destroyed the house of David and killed his seed, which is killing his kids. So then, if he killed David and his kids, the house of David, and their seeds, then how do these people still exist? And how are they still walking around? How is there still like this Hezekiah, Josiah, and all these other people that come after? If David's seed was destroyed. If David's seed was destroyed, and it could be hyperbole, one or two people could have escaped. But where's the evidence of any of that? But none of these things happen. Yeah, I agree. Tomorrow we'll be talking about the New Testament, but yeah, the New Testament never happened either. You know, it amazes me when people just make some of the most arbitrary statements. This man don't believe in his kids. I don't have to believe in my kids. I know my kids exist. Talked to one of them earlier today. Right. And the Tower of Babel, to me, I view this as a grandpa story. And when I say grandpa story, is like, oh, my grandkid come up to me. I don't have any grandkids, but they come up to you and tell them this big fish story. Where did all the language come from, granddad? Well, let me tell you. See, one time there was this tower, and after the flood, and the people were trying to get close to God, and God was like, oh, look at the hubris. They need to learn some lessons. And so then he came and shut them down, because he said, if they can do this, there's nothing that man can't accomplish. Because of course this God doesn't want man to be able to accomplish things. I mean, think of that, man being in unity. This God wouldn't want that. So I got to disrupt their languages so they can show some humility, and thereby separating the people once again. Now, separating the people once again into, these are my favorite children. I like my grandkids from this child, not the other child. That's how dumb that story is. It's a dumb story. That's why I call it a grandpa story. It's like one of them stories that your grandfather is like making up as he go along to tell his children.
Hey,
hey, Cherry. How's that?
When I was debating these Christians.
You made a what last night?
I made 10K followers.
Oh, outstanding. Congratulations.
Thanks. But I be letting them get to me when they start saying all that, you gonna go to hell and blah, blah, blah. I be letting them get in my head. I don't know why. Indoctrinated.
You shouldn't let them get in. I mean, it's because you made that conversion away from it. Sometimes the emotional conversion takes a little bit more time.
It's a delay. Yeah, okay. So let me tell you what I did. That link that I just put in the chat, I made a game called Christian Comeback Bingo.
Christian Comeback Bingo.
So I made a 9-square game. It's not a scam or a joke or anything. I literally, if you take that link, if y'all type it in, right? So the square in the middle is the free space. That's free will. And then I also got what else I put on there? That wasn't a Christian. You're going to hell. Out of context. So when I live stream, my viewers can play bingo, so that whenever we get an excuse, they can just wipe it out on their bingo card of the Christian comeback.
Gotcha. Because they have a lot of the same little canned comebacks, and most of the time they can't even explain the comeback.
Oh yeah, Ethiopia. Don't get me started.
Yeah. I think I hurt someone's feelings the other day when I broke down how there is no such thing as an English translation of the Ethiopian Bible. There's just not. It's never been translated from Ge'ez to English.
Wait, you didn't see the Ethiopians starting to clap back on TikTok? You didn't see it? You didn't see them going viral yesterday? Oh, the Ethiopians are starting to make TikToks saying, stop talking about Ethiopia. You never been here. You don't even know where we live. You don't even know what languages we speak. And why do Black Americans keep talking about Ethiopia? Like, they feel disrespected. An Ethiopian Christian woman went on live yesterday and was talking about how they don't even have the knowledge or the intellect to be bringing her country and her religion into the conversation.
I agree.
And then guess what? She got all them, them FBAs, them fundamental Black. She got all of them in her comments telling her that she's wrong. She like, how you gonna tell me I'm wrong? I live here. I'm born and raised here.
No, I didn't see that.
I'm gonna send you the video.
Yeah, send that video to me, because that's funny. That is funny, because these, one of the saddest part about Black Americans is that they're reaching out so hard to try to find an identity that's other than American. And I understand that to a certain degree, but instead of reaching out to what is more of a truer identity, they're trying to grab hold to the more popular identities. Oh, I'm Kemetic. I'm Ethiopian. Your family didn't come from no damn Egypt or Ethiopia. They came from West Africa.
West Africa.
But they don't want that, because they want some grand heritage. But all you got to do is look beyond what, from the point of the Europeans, when they came down and colonized and conquered, just look beyond that, and you will see kingdoms. You will see chiefs and kings and queens. You will still see the same type of civilizations that you can see in these other ones. It's just they were conquered at some point. It happens. Every nation goes through some ups and downs, but they want to be popular, and they have no heredity to those people. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I didn't have that. I'm gonna send you that, or I'm gonna tag you in that Ethiopia. She got Black Americans arguing her up and down, and she lives in Ethiopia. She look Ethiopian by the face, everything.
Yeah, tag me in there.
She's a Christian. Yeah, and they telling her, well, you're wrong. You don't know. I've studied this. She like, what?
You can't study it unless you can read Giez. Otherwise, you're just reading English translations of similar books. And some of those books don't have the same thing that the Giez language has. So it's just dumb. Yeah, send me, connect me to one of those.
Okay, I'm going to tag you.
Okay.
Right, bye.
All right, bye. Yeah, I find that to be one of like the funniest things when they do that. KM Creations. KM Creations. KM Creations. Arshada, KM Creations. Okay. KM Creations is no longer there. I think Reverend Dixon was next. Reverend Dixon. Reverend Dixon. I don't know if there's a delay or something. Reverend. The Tower of Babel is why we speak different languages. You know that there were languages already spoken on the planet long before the Tower of Babel. There has not been a time on the planet that we can identify where everyone spoke the same language. And I'm guessing Reverend Dixon is not there anymore. Who else we got? Angelo. Said churches are modern day towers of Babel. Yeah, I would agree. It's just a whole bunch of confusion. And which is funny because Babel in the Hebrew, ancient Proto-Hebrew, does mean confusion. But in Babylon, Babel meant gateway. And Babylon means gateway of the gods. So it has absolutely nothing to do with it. And there was this ziggurat that continued to be unfinished. And that's what this story is most likely based on, of them trying to finish it for like 90 years during the Babylonian captivity. So they just made up some shit. Oh, okay. They canceled their request. Got this one dude. He just hanging in the request line. Little boy Max. We just don't. I don't do. Y'all been telling me I'm too patient on people. I'm learning not to be patient with some people. But Ethiopia definitely has become part of a major deception in the world today, with people trying to attach themselves to the Ethiopian Bible. So let me explain it. The Ethiopian Bible is written in Ge'ez. There has never been an English translation of their Bible from Ge'ez to English. What most people are buying as Ethiopian Bibles is where somebody has looked, we know the books that are in the Ethiopian Bible, the actual one. And so they take the English version of those books that we already have, and then they put them together and say, this is the Ethiopian Bible. But the problem is that the English versions that come from the Koine Greeks do not translate or say everything that the Ethiopian Bible says. So it's a bunch of bullshit when they try to grab hold to this Ethiopian Bible. You don't even know what you're reading. You don't even have the full information or the full doctrine that the Tawhid Church is following. And the only reason black people are doing it is because it's from Ethiopia. So they're being scammed. They're being scammed to buy these books, and they're doing it. And they're doing it. And you notice how nobody can come up here and show me how any of these things are. I'm going to see if this Joker. Now, I'm not talking about flat earth. You got to prove to me that any of these stories happen. Let me give you one more shot, little boy. Little boy Max. Little boy Max. Oh, shit.
Yo, what's up, man?
All right. So do you want to talk about the subject matter?
I want to talk a little bit about what do you believe in?
What I believe in doesn't matter.
Religion?
Doesn't matter.
What do you mean it doesn't matter? It does matter, man.
No, it doesn't. If I'm talking about the information, what does that matter?
Because all your beliefs, they go back to your religion.
No, they don't.
Every belief you got ties back to religion. So you say you don't believe in the flat earth, that ties back into religion.
No, it doesn't. I don't believe in the flat earth because I've been out on the ship and I've seen that the earth is not flat. I've also researched information that shows that the earth is not flat. So it has nothing to do with religion.
What ship have you been on?
The USS Nashville, the USS Austin, the USS Saipan, the USS Iwo Jima, the USS Kennedy, the USS America.
What spaceship have you been on?
Are you not understanding that these are Navy? So these are Navy ships. I served in the Marine Corps.
So you served in the Marine Corps,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
Well, I just want to say thank you for your service. I don't want to disrespect you in any aspect there. I respect you for that.
Mm-hmm.
I respect your courage, but what does being on a ship have to do with anything with the flat earth?
So when you're on a ship and you don't have anything encumbering your viewpoint, you can see where another ship dips, how the ship dips below the curvature of the earth. It doesn't just get smaller. The ship literally sinks as it would over a curvature.
But that doesn't explain that the earth is not flat.
Yes, if the earth was flat, then there would be no curvature, and the ship, instead of sinking below the horizon, it would just get smaller and smaller and stay on the horizon.
That's not how that works, buddy.
That's exactly how the science of a curvature on the earth works.
Show me. There is no curvature. I've been on a plane before. I've been on a boat before. There is no curvature whatsoever.
If you was on a boat, you weren't paying attention. And on a plane, how are you going to see? You're not going to see that on a plane because you're not high enough to see the curvature.
Now it's that you're not high enough. You think you're going to see it on a boat?
Yeah. Yeah, saw it a bunch of times.
Show me a picture of the Earth. I want to see a picture of the Earth.
Actually, the Artemis little mission, they actually, when they came back from the backside of the moon, they showed a picture of the Earth. And the astronaut who did it, he purposely said, "I did this because of the flat Earth people."
So you're believing a bunch of green screen and all that crap?
That's not green screen.
As somebody in the Marines, you served in the Marines, right?
Yep.
The war is fake. War is fake.
Okay, you about to really get kicked off my live when you are talking about people that I served with who died.
Tell me war is not a business.
In that regard, I can agree with you, but to say that it's fake, to say that when
it's all made up, dude.
Bruh, you just
you're letting your emotions get to you, dog.
No, you're not going to disrespect the people that I know of who went into combat and died. Yeah, are we going there? Did we go there because they say they had weapons of mass destruction and there were none? Sure. Did the military industrial complex make a bunch of money? Sure. But you're not going to disrespect the people that I know of who fought, who died. We're not going there. I refuse. I gave you a chance, but you fucked that up real quick. And never did you talk about the actual issue. Excuse me. And it's hot as hell here in San Antonio today. It's like 103 degrees. You can't even talk about the issue. Dudes, you're not, you know what? Let's see. I'm not dealing with somebody who you can't even have a decent conversation about the issue at hand. You just want to come up here and talk about your geopolitical idiocy. There's something I want to do, but I don't see how I can do it. Valerie. How you doing, Kamo? Valerie. Okay, Valerie, if you are trying to come onto the show, I need you to turn the music down or turn the music off and then unmute yourself. But I think you might have did it by accident. So I'm going to give you a few minutes. I'm going to leave you up there just a few minutes to see if that's what the situation is. But you getting it. Sound like some good 70s stuff going on in the background. Kamo, this your first live. Thank you for joining us. Say get a telescope, and one of the things about, and see, flat Earth stuff is stupid. They left mirrors on the moon where you can get a regular telescope. You can point to the laser, and you can if you get your telescope and you can and a laser, you can point it at the moon and get the refraction. These people are stupid. Oh, okay, Valerie, I got you. Valerie on a plane. Got that good Wi-Fi. All right. If the Earth was flat, and I like this one, he said it's a round shadow on the moon during a lunar eclipse. Right. If it was flat, we wouldn't have the eclipse on a lunar eclipse would have a plane shape on it with maybe the little underpart of Sheol that they try to say exists. And I don't think people realize how big the Earth is. You see, I'm not getting into this dumbass conversation. I'm not. Because then people don't think I'm talking about flat Earth on here. Helly.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I don't know if my camera just went out, but I got a business deal going on at the same time. They had all morning to get the paperwork and everything sent to me and everything. And now they're doing I'm sorry. Yeah, now they're doing like all the paperwork. Like, this is some bullshit. Well, it ain't bullshit. It's good, but sorry. How you have my 100% attention right now.
You good? You good?
Yeah.
But so within part of my theory that I was talking about yesterday, part of that is that I believe a lot of these stories actually all happened back in Greece, and then within one of the floods, they went down the water, or Moses, when the water parted, it wasn't actually the Red Sea, it was the Mediterranean Sea.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so then they just went straight down, because that's just a straight shot if you cut through that sea from Greece. And up in Greece, within the Greek mythology, they speak of a city that's placed within the two rivers, the same as the other people.
Okay, so, I don't know this Greek story.
Well, I think it's a place called Pythias is the original name. A lot of stuff happened. It turned into a couple other places, but it's like it was described as like where the two rivers meet, and like I can't remember the stories that happened in there specifically, but within that, I believe that when they did flee, they fled straight down the Mediterranean, ended up where they did, and then just claimed that land to be like, no, this is the land they were talking about. No, God made this one. This was the one for us, kind of thing. So, because like I said, the Torah had already been rewritten long time ago. By where that came all down to was Ezra, because Ezra, like I said, had been exiled from, or not exiled, he'd been exiled within Babylon, and then he was sent as part of the Babylonian government, mind you, to take the Torah back to Judea and the people to reestablish Judea.
And when was this?
And that was.
I think she got a phone call.
I would have to Google it to see when the exact time when Ezra took the Torah from Babylon to Judea, but at that same time, was the first time it was codified by only him.
I think that should be around in the 500s.
Yes.
BCE.
Somewhere around there, if I believe so. So he, at that time, codified the story, and so would have been the only one to been able to validate the story that he codified. And when they went to challenge to see if the Torah was correct, the priest that got to decode the Torah had already learned the coded Torah, so they were basically trained on the translation already. So they translated it perfectly. So they took that as verification that it was actually the correct Torah. But it wasn't. It was whatever Ezra said it was.
And that's one of the things that I don't think people really understand, is that even when you look at the actual people who most likely are real in the Bible, when Josiah, Ezra, when these people said what they said and translated things, and they were in the leadership position, the people just bowed down to it, much the same way people do today.
Correctly. And so also within that, I think the Babylonian government had told him to write in certain rules and laws within that, so people would abide by them more clearly if they thought God said it.
Exactly. And we see that.
So it was partially, I think he was basically like a plant, essentially. Ezra was sent in to essentially do that, because the only person to verify the book of Ezra is Ezra. And the book of Leviticus is actually just the records, the blood records that the Levites apparently kept, because power needs a paper trail.
Exactly. Thank you.
So
people don't realize how much politics. That's why I had, when I was researching the Bible back when I was a believer, one of the things that pushed me away from the Bible was all the political ramifications that are involved in these different groups of people saying this is true, this is true, this is true. But when you look at the politics of it, Ezra was given permission from a Babylonian king. He didn't just have carte blanche to go and do whatever he wanted to do or what he thought was right or what he thought this guy said. He was under the rulership of somebody else. And so all these books that people are believing in, there's a political spin to all of them based on who was ruling them at any given time. And I don't know if he was on here yesterday, but I was making that point yesterday about the Jesus character, that him and Pilate and, you know, all these people had to bend to the will of Rome. They had to bend to the will of the Sanhedrin in order for them to gain the followings and to survive. Otherwise, these things wouldn't exist.
Precisely. So, like, that's where my theory comes in about Greece. So, I think Moses was a good man, essentially. He was still of good faith or whatever. So, they designated him to take the survivors and take them back out of whatever was going to happen for that flood.
Mm-hmm. You mean Noah?
No, I'm talking about when Moses parted the Red
Oh,
Sea.
parting the Red Sea. Have you ever read about there was a guy named Thutmose who went up, not Thutmose the king, well, the Pharaoh. Now he might have been the Pharaoh, but one of the Thutmoses went up into Goshen where there was a camp for people with leprosy. And he was up there with them, helped them out. And then when the Egyptians came to reconquer that land, they then crossed the Reed Sea to go over into the Sinai Peninsula at a time frame when the Reed Sea water, which is only like 6 feet deep, but when the waters kind of recede, and they crossed through the Reed Sea during that time frame. And I think that's in like the 1400s BCE, which would be to that time frame. And this guy Moses changed his name to Moses. Have you ever read about that?
That one. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And where did that one come from?
From the Egyptians.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it's not so much a parting of the Reed Sea. It's just there's a time frame when the waters recede from it, which makes it then crossable without a boat because it's only like 6 feet deep. Like a severe low tide that lasts for like a couple of days
as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just don't. I think part of the issue is just the overall belief is that I just don't think it happened where they said it happened.
Shit, I don't think it. I'm thinking that 99% of it is based on somebody else's story, and then they legendize the story.
Which could be possible too, because like we were talking about yesterday, a lot of it crosses over with Greek mythology. But Greek was always taken as mythology, even though they speak of wars that truly happened and things that we can historically validate, but it's still taken as mythology somehow.
Yeah, it is. I'm sorry. You know what? I gotta be honest. My little business situation popped up on my screen again. What was that last part you said? I got most of it, but not all of it.
I don't remember what I said now either.
Oh, all right. Well, I appreciate you. Let me go to some other people.
Sounds good. Have a great day.
All right, you have a great day. I am sorry, everybody. I am handling some business stuff. Okay. All morning, this stuff could have been handled, but it's all right. I'm gonna talk bad. I'm gonna call them up and talk bad about them. Like y'all know, but hey, you think y'all more important than them? No. This is business. That's why it kills me when people say, "Oh, you're only doing this for the business. You're trying to get money out of people." If they only knew. If they only knew. And let me see if I can find that real quick about Thutmose. It's an interesting thing to go and study. And I think it's Thutmose. Is this the one 18th dynasty? I know Sigmund Freud tried to say that Akhenaten was Moses, but that has been proven to be nowhere near true. I know I spelled that word wrong, but hopefully it'll find it correctly. Who was that damn person? Okay, so where that comes from for Haley and for anybody else who wanted to look at it, this was written in the 3rd century BCE by the historian Manetho in his book. I can't even say Aegyptica. So look up Manetho and Moses. Instead of liberating Jewish slaves, the Egyptian tradition frames the Exodus as an expulsion of rebellious colony of lepers led by an renegade Egyptian insider. So basically, you had 80,000 lepers who were regulated up into the northern area in order to cleanse Egypt. And in this leprosy camp near Avaris, which that used to be the capital when the Hyksos ruled. But then sorry, I said Thutmose, not Thutmose. It's Orosophis. Orosophis becomes the leader in this colony, and then they were kicked out of Egypt, and there's only about 80,000 of them. So it's Orosophis, and it's written by Manetho in the 4th century BCE. So if anybody want to go research that, that's where you go research that one. That's your starting point, and then you can go from there. Nobody ain't getting no defenders of the Christianities. Where are the defenders of the belief? Solar music.
Hello.
How you doing? Are you over 21?
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
over 21.
All right. Are you a believer in the Bible?
I am a believer in the Bible, yes, sir. I fall short of the glory of God every single day, unfortunately.
Okay. So what do you think of the subject matter?
The subject matter, did the Torah actually happen? So in that question, I would say the Torah was the original manuscript for the Bible during whenever they started writing the gospel, but not the gospels, but just putting the piecing together the Bible from the crucifixion of Jesus, right? Whenever Peter and they founded the churches and stuff, correct? The Torah, the original manuscript.
Well, I'm not going to say
before it gets dropped into the languages.
I mean, I'm not going to say it's an original manuscript. The Torah is supposed to be the first 5 books of the Bible, supposedly written by Moses.
That's what it is. I'm sorry.
Yeah, supposedly written by Moses.
So did the Torah actually happen? That's a good question for me. In my opinion, I'm somewhat knowledgeable, but not entirely. So I don't want to say too much. And not knowing facts in future circumstances, but for creation, obviously, I would think that there had to be creation in order for everything to transpire down the road. Adam and Eve was the product of, God's love for, his creation.
Okay, but that can be said for any religion. Any religion's creation, and even science's creation of what we know life is today. That could be said for any of them. That doesn't prove any of these things.
Just the names, but like the ideas of that. Did the Torah actually happen? It would be hard for me to say yes or no with that. Apart from delving in depth to what those books mean, verbatim, so to say.
I mean, those books are supposed to be, they're supposed to be history. They're supposed to be recorded history. So do you believe that that humans on the planet have only been here since 4004 BCE?
I believe that the earth is no more than, what do they say, 6,000 to 10,000 years old, according to creationism. Now, the carbon dating and fossils that they use for the 4.5 billion year ratio about the planets and stuff, I find that hard to believe, because I can't even count to $100,000 easily.
Okay.
Let alone 4.5 billion
well,
years.
You should find carbon dating of that many years to be hard to believe, because carbon dating can't go back that far. The further our technologies in carbon dating can only go back to about 50,000 years. But that's not how the earth is dated, through carbon dating.
And even in the book of Job, if you go beyond the Torah, even in the book of Job, it talks about Behemoth, and it talks about Leviathan, and interpreting that into how you would. You could very well say that perhaps
let me interrupt you for a second. One, I need you to speak up, because
I'm sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better, because people on the other platforms can barely hear you. But
okay.
I wasn't finished in explaining that it's not through carbon dating that we date back the age of the earth. Most of it is done through other radiometric dating, like uranium dating is one of the primary ones that is utilized, because of the length of the half-life of uranium can be measured, which shows that the earth goes back to like 4 billion years.
Right, yeah. And I had actually had ran across that. My very first youth minister, I remember him talking about how inaccurate carbon dating is for that subject. Yeah.
Okay, again,
yeah, I do.
It's not carbon dating. Carbon dating is accurate up to 50,000 years.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm agreeing with you on
that.
Yeah.
Okay, got you.
Like I said, I believe that the earth is about 6,000 to 10,000 years old, according to creationism. Now, I don't know for a fact how old it is, but I can't believe the carbon dating theories about what they do with that. I think it's just evolutionists and stuff that do that.
Oh, okay. So when you say
doing scientific stuff, I mean, yeah, it works. Like you said, I'm agreeing with you. So yeah,
I'm
gonna stop talking.
Well, you can't agree on both of them, because, and I think it's because you got carbon dating in your mind, radiometric dating, talking about uranium dating. Uranium dating allows us to measure the isotopes to go back billions of years. We don't use carbon dating for the dating of the earth.
Well, and individual figures like Abraham and Moses and Noah, they can't be verified by archaeology or any of that stuff. Geographical, the cultural details in Genesis, so to say, such as ancient adoption practices, like nomadic migration routes and city names, they align with the Middle Bronze Age. So that would be a creationist aspect on the 6,000 year ratio, in my opinion. I can be wrong, though.
Well, the problem with many of the stories in the Bible, when you go from Adam, Eve, Noah, Tower of Babel, Abraham, is that they don't match up to what
them not be verified by archaeology. Sorry to interrupt you.
But the problem is that they fly in the face of archaeology. Like, they make claims that could not have happened in their time frame. Right. So like Abraham dealing with King Amalek is an anachronistic impossibility, because the Philistines would not have been in the Levant. There's archaeological evidence so that the Philistines didn't come into the Levant until around the 13th century BCE. But Abraham would have been in, if he did exist, would have been happening in around 22 BCE. So we got like 1,000-year gap.
The same 1,000 years before the pyramids, or after the pyramids, excuse me.
Well, it's more than that. It's a long time, but the pyramids don't really have anything to do with it, because Amalek was. But Amalek would have been around, wasn't around when Abraham would have been telling him that Sarah was his sister and not his wife. Amalek didn't have a kingdom at that time frame for Abraham. So the Bible is making these timeline mistakes that are huge, which demonstrates that the people who are writing the story, they were writing it after Amalek and after they knew the Philistines were a culture group, a people group.
Now, flood stories that were common across the ancient Mesopotamian literatures, as the Torah supposedly reflects shared regional tradition.
Before you go to the floods, what do you think about the fact that Abraham could not have been existing at the same time as the Phoenicians in the Levant?
When I think of that, I think of whenever Jesus did the was it the Sermon on the Mount, whenever the two apparitions appeared before the disciples, and one could have been who were the two? It was Abraham and Moses, wasn't it?
Elijah.
And Jesus was talking to Elijah, yes sir, Elijah, outside of time itself, and that's why it was so mind blowing to them. I would imagine that would be the same idea that I would take whenever Adam couldn't have existed at the same time. That's what you had stated. Okay, that makes no sense whatsoever. How? What was your original? So Abraham talks about having this dealings with Amalek, who was a Philistine king, and that he told the king that Sarah was his sister. He took her. The king took her because that was his kingly right to do. But then supposedly God came to Amalek and said, don't do that. Don't have sex with her because that's another man's wife. Amalek gets mad at Abraham and tells Abraham, you tried to mess me up. Amalek gives Abraham all this money and cattle and slaves, and then tells the people don't mess with Abraham and let Abraham buy this land. And that's when he goes by this land from the I think an Edomite or somebody like that. So this is not some time. This is a story that's being told in a chronological order of events happening with buying and selling products and all this kind of thing. Well, buying and selling land and the gifting of animals and stuff. The problem is that Amalek, the Philistines, weren't in the Levant at that time frame. They were still up near the Black Sea area. They hadn't migrated that far. So they're writing this when they're the scribes who are writing this story are mixing up the timelines of who Abraham could have been talking to at that time frame. If that story was real, they insert Amalek, the Philistines, and that's an anachronism. That's an anachronism. Okay.
So it definitely shows Moses didn't write this. That Moses didn't write this story.
Yeah, and I had never been keen to know who would have wrote the accounts of Genesis. I think that was just common. What would they say? Just a common grounds for that Moses being the one to have wrote the first 5 books of the Bible.
Yeah, that's the claim.
Like that. The closest one that would have supposedly because of said book and all that. It's better to have been a handmaid to this nation than a princess to the other, and that's what had produced
the
concubine that Esau's son, the union produced Amalek. In Genesis 21:1, apparently the text says that God remembered Sarah, bringing about the miraculous birth of Isaac. And I have remembered what Amalek did to Israel, ordering their destruction in 1 Samuel 15. Verse 2.
Yeah, and so Samuel is also getting it wrong. Amalek could not have done anything to Israel because Amalek wouldn't have been around. Like we know when the Philistines came to the Levant. We know the archaeology of it, so it's an impossibility.
The thing I would take away from this personally, because you're rather an intellectual man, so to say, is me personally, if every account in the Bible, the Holy Bible, and every word is verbatim, nothing can be taken or put into, taken from or put into the Word of God. would have meant the beginning of creation to those who wanted to understand where the good story would lead to later down the line. Throughout all of the books of the Holy Bible, there would have had to have been a first account of the scripture in Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, so on and so forth, to kind of lay out the grounds for what would be the end of the Old Testament, going the book of Jude into the New Testament, with the Gospels and all of that stuff. So, in saying did the Torah actually happen, I don't think that I would ever deny the books of the Holy Bible, so to say. Now, I have not read the Torah. I know it's kind of a different, might be a different account.
It's not.
Opposed to the other.
It's not.
You don't think it would be?
It's not. It's the same thing. The Torah is just
even
in modern books.
NIV.
Well, I wouldn't read the NIV, but the NIV, I wouldn't read that one. That's a terrible translation based on the King James, which is an even worse translation.
King James had been into vampirism and stuff at one point. I don't know if that's accurate or not.
I don't know if that's true or not, but I wouldn't. It's just the aspect of the book is poorly translated and highly politicized is the reason why I wouldn't read it. But
I think it just creates a vivid picture of what transpires to stories like the talking donkey and the angel that blocks the path, and there you go to different aspects of what transpires afterwards.
So are you saying that the stories are all just like fables?
Not fables necessarily, but like a leading up to laying out the path, the grounds, like in Job. I'm sorry, I'm straying away from the Torah, but whenever God questioned Job, saying, "Who laid the foundations of the earth, and were you there?" All of this stuff, it gives the reader and viewer an account of an actual timeline, so to say, opposed to not just vivid imageries of what's happening, but more so a timeline that you can piece together that leads up to how you're supposed to view what went on when and how accurately everything transpired to the crucifixion and to the resurrection.
I'm not sure I'm understanding. I must not just be grasping your meaning. And not to say I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but it sounds like you're going through some mental gymnastics in order to make this thing stick.
That's usually what we do. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not intelligent. I'm not intellectual. I just kind of piece together inside my mind because I've been away from the church for so long, and it pains me to know that I'm not intelligent on these matters anymore. Whenever it's such a big topic in today's discussion.
So why would you believe them?
Like I said, just to give an account based on the timelines of what would be said to happen after the facts and stuff. It's like you can't have you can't go to and order a dang burrito if you don't have knowledge of where you're going to get the gas in your empty tank to go first. Does that kind of make sense?
In this regard, it does not make sense, because here's the reason why. So you brought up the transfiguration that Jesus supposedly experienced on the mountain with Moses and Elijah, right? With Moses and Elijah. But if Moses never existed as a being, how could Jesus have this transfiguration moment? If Elijah never existed as a being, how could he have this moment with these two beings if they never existed?
Now, Elijah not existing, he was the one who was carried up to heaven and never experienced death.
Well, he's one of two people, according to the Bible. You got Elijah and Enoch.
Enoch, yeah.
Right. So, again, you have to believe that the story of Moses is true, the stories of Elijah is true, in order to have your ramping up to Jesus being on this mountain and talking to these dudes.
Yeah.
But if those stories aren't, so you have to believe. Do you believe that those stories are true?
I I would say, in my personal being and not being able to elaborate more on it, I would have to say yes, just because of my firm belief that nothing could have been taken away from the scripture and nothing could have been added to the scripture according to the book of Revelations, which is the, I believe it would be according to the book of Revelations. I forget what verse it would have been.
Okay, so do you think 2 million people would have been able to walk around the Sinai Peninsula, which was still controlled by Egypt, go into the so-called promised land, which was controlled by Egypt, and decimate all these people who were under Egypt's protection? And there's absolutely zero archaeology, zero people outside of the Bible writing about this.
I kind of just see it as a foundational origin story.
But it doesn't.
Together, like real ancient Near Eastern settings, historical, cultural memories.
Okay, but if it's a lie,
frameworks and stuff like that, it doesn't necessarily say anything based on prior knowledge or future knowledge. It's kind of just like I've been saying, like verbatim, so to say, like just word for word, textual evidence of what could have transpired in those times, like the times of Noah, Moses, Joseph in Egypt, Abraham.
Okay, I don't think we're talking about the same thing here, because, like I said, gymnastics.
Supposed to happen then?
You're doing gymnastics because in order for
supposed to happen, I guess that's the confusion. Because
you
don't necessarily read it as the Torah. I read it as the first 5 books of the Holy Bible.
I mean, that doesn't matter. It's the same thing. But if Moses never crossed the Red Sea with 2 million people, if that never happened, if there was never these 2 million slaves in Egypt who were Israelites, the archaeology, the history shows us that never happened. So why would you still believe that? But you're saying that you're still going to believe it because you have faith, even though everything in history shows that it never happened.
It would just really mainly rely on the actual it being in the scripture itself. Now you say
it's in there.
Separate the Torah and the first and the rest of the Bible because there's no difference.
Wait, it's in there. If you pick up any Bible that you have today, any translation, even the ones that are good, they have the whole story of Moses and the slaves in Egypt and the plagues happening and all this stuff. All of that is in any Bible that you pick up. So you're just reading it as the Old Testament. But none of those things history shows that those things did not happen.
That was the law of God. I view the Old Testament as the law of God.
That's not what I'm talking about, my man. You keep moving around to some other subject matters that is not what I'm talking about.
Let me exit stage left, and then someone else could probably do it better. I'm not trying to knock your knowledge or nothing. Like, it's interesting to me, your knowledge. I'm just answering the questions that you have.
Okay.
Because I'm not intelligent about this stuff. I'm just finding it interesting.
Okay. All right, man. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I would suggest, like my grandfather told me, I'm never going to stake my life on something that I'm not intelligent about. Like, I see a lot of people going into business, since I had a whole bunch of business stuff happening while I was talking to Helly. I see people going into business and they have no business knowledge, and then they ultimately fail. If you're going to put your life into something, you should go get as much knowledge about it as you possibly can. And acquiring this knowledge is not hard. I mean, what did it say? Sorry. Okay. All right. See, it's just like this business deal that I'm working on right now. Those people, they don't have the knowledge that I have, but they're coming into business with me depending on that knowledge. The problem with churches is that we depend on people's knowledge who don't have the knowledge. Most of your pastors don't have the knowledge. Oh, and Janelle Christmas, thank you for the 10 gems. Don't know what gems mean, but I'm gonna look it up later. But I appreciate them. you got to have, you know, these pastors don't know what the hell they're talking about. They've never studied it like this. And some have, but they just ignore it. Tony.
What happened?
What's your name? Oh, my bad. Are you over 21, Tony?
Yeah.
Okay. And are you a believer in the Bible?
Not all of it.
Okay.
I believe it's been tampered with.
All right. So as far as the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, is that tampered?
I don't think so. I think first 5 books is all right.
Okay. So you think that there were slaves in Egypt and 10 plagues hit, and they hit them with 10 plagues and then they left.
Yeah.
And what would be your evidence of that?
Well, just doing comparative studies and knowing, seeing that certain events have been talked about by other people about the Exodus out of Egypt.
What other studies? What comparisons?
Oh, well, I done did comparison studies on different religious backgrounds, Islam, just different books in general.
Okay, so you compared the Moses story to the Islamic version of the Moses story?
Right.
So the Islamic version of the Moses story is pretty much a copy with some edits of the Jewish story. That's not comparative. That's not a comparison study.
Well, this is mainly lines up with the same story.
Right. So did you ever see, you know how Brandy was in the Cinderella story?
Say that again?
You know how Brandy made a movie of Cinderella?
Yeah.
And you know how there's the original Cinderella story, right?
Correct.
Brandy's story would be Islam. The original story would be Judaism. That's not a comparison. That's just rewriting the same story. A comparison study would be, this is what's in the Bible that the Israelites claim, and this is what the Egyptians claim. This is what the Canaanite people who were living in that land claim, and comparing what they all wrote or the archaeology of it all, and that will tell you who's right, who's wrong.
Well, that's if you look at the Islamic point of view, that's kind of what happened. Showing that certain things that's in the Bible, 5 first books, corrections were made, like the story of Ishmael, for example. Ishmael and Isaac and the birthrights and all that. If you look at the Islamic version, they talk about how Ishmael, being the first chosen son, was given the rights, but as opposed to what the Bible says.
Okay, but again, the story of Ishmael is being written, although differently than what the Bible says, the Old Testament, is being written presupposing that Abraham existed and that he had sex with his slave wife Hagar and they produced a child. So they're already presupposing that the Abraham part is true. That's just adding your own version to the story, to a story you already accept. Comparison study is comparing it to people who don't already say that it's true, but just having their information based on what they know.
Well, I mean, you got people that compare their knowledge to that story. I mean, it's basically the same thing.
No, it's not.
It's like, for example, if I was to compare myself, say I have no knowledge of nothing, and I read the story and I say, well, I think this is this or this did not exist, that would be comparison study.
No.
That would be my perspective on that topic.
Okay, but
same way when you get to the Islamic.
No, what you just said is very different from the Islamic version. The Islamic version is already having the previous knowledge. You just said if you had no knowledge, but the Islamic version already has the knowledge of the Abrahamic story and is attaching themselves to it.
Yeah, but if you go on, what I'm saying is, if you go off from the beginning, from what the Prophet Muhammad had said regarding that story, okay, he allegedly says that he was a illiterate person with no knowledge of having forth of that particular incident or religion in itself, but then the angel Jibril supposed to appear to him, and then he later gave all that testimony to his followers, right?
Okay.
So it's not a issue of someone already having some, because he didn't have the knowledge.
Right, but
person.
If you believe an angel came down and told him the story, then you are presupposing that this particular angel, who was part of the court of this God, you're presupposing that that angel and that God already exist.
Correct.
Okay, that's not a comparison. That's
perspective of
angel coming to, and that's all it is a different perspective of the same story that presupposes that the story, that the bedrock of the story is true. When we look at the Egyptian, history, the Egyptian history don't predispose that that story is true at all. And when you look at their history, they suffered. They never had this mass exodus. They never suffered through the economic cataclysm that would have happened to Egypt and many other Mediterranean countries if Egypt had went through those 10 plagues.
Okay, but so that's the same situation. You put yourself back in the same situation. You will have to say that you presupposing that story or their belief is true. That this didn't happen.
Well, see, here's the thing. This is what backs it up. The time frame of Moses, depending upon whose version, what part of the Old Testament you're reading. If you go based on Kings, the book of, I don't know if I can't remember if it's the first or the second book of Kings, but I think it's the first book of Kings. This Moses story would have happened around the 1500s BCE. If you go based on the Exodus story itself and Merneptah, it would have happened around 1200 BCE, 1200 to 1300 BCE. So we got like a 200-year gap. When we look at the archaeology of Egypt during that time frame, what we see is that Egypt flourished during that time frame. From 1500 all the way to 1000 BCE, Egypt flourished and Egypt controlled the Levant. So if those plagues had happened, Egypt would not have flourished. They would have lost control of the Levant, which is when we see during the Bronze Age collapse, when a environmental economic crash did happen, Egypt lost control of that area. And we can see that they suffered during that time frame.
Okay, but from the scripture perspective, okay, those plagues and stuff were not they were temporary. They didn't last forever. So, and Egypt was prospering prior to the alleged plagues. So, I mean, evidence will still be there that they prospered.
No, sir. Let me ask you a question. This is modern day today. If every animal in the United States died, that's not temporary. They all die. And according to the Exodus story, they died twice. Would America still prosper if all the animals in America died?
If all the animals died?
Yeah, if all the animals in the United States died right now, would we not tailspin into a huge depression economically?
Yeah, I mean, well, it depends on what sources you're going to use after the animals die. Because there's other resources that you can use other than animals.
If just the beef industry alone, if the beef industry was to collapse.
That's because America is prone to just meat.
Okay, you're going off the subject though. If the American beef industry were to collapse today, America would be thrown into a serious depression. So when you said it's a temporary and they still could have flourished, that's the point. There's no way that Egypt could have still flourished. Let's say the blood in the water was temporary, which would have killed all the fish, which that would have killed their whole fishing industry. But let's say the blood was temporary, but all the fish would have died. If it lasts longer than an hour, it's all going to die. They're all dying. The economic impact to Egypt at that time frame would have been devastating if those things would have happened. If the firstborn sons had all died, devastating to their economy. That's not a temporary thing. First son's dying. Okay, everything in the water dying, all the animals dying. Those are not temporary. Can you honestly say that Egypt still could have flourished?
Well, I can't say that it could have, because you're talking about the first sons. Even if we get rid of all the first sons, you still got other sons of Egypt.
Okay, all the fish dying, all the animals dying, all the wheat, all the wheat crops dying.
Well, we got other resources.
They were an agrarian society at that time frame. There weren't other resources. What other resources are you talking about?
I'm saying you got other vegetations that they can use to substitute and use besides just wheat.
All the vegetation died.
I remember everything died.
No, everything died. It said it killed everything, all the crops. All crops died. All crops was decimated by the locusts and the hailstorms. All that's gone.
Okay, but that's temporary. That ain't forever. Because you're trying to show that with these plagues that it was wiped out. Okay,
how long do you think it takes to regrow all the crops and all the animals and all the fish?
Well, I'm not saying everything would come back. I'm saying that, okay, it's just like when you have a wildfire. If you have a wildfire and the wildfire is there, it's temporary. That area comes back.
We're talking about a whole country, man.
I get it.
A whole country.
You still can't say that vegetation won't come back.
Okay, yes, it will eventually come back. But how long do you think it takes for all the vegetation to come back?
Well, I don't know about all of it, but it don't take long for some of it to come back.
How long would you estimate it takes for all? Have you ever talked to you know, what do you know about farming?
I know a little bit about farming.
Okay.
I was raised on a farm.
You was raised on a farm.
Yeah.
What happens to a farmer when his crop fails?
Well, if his crop fails, he's done for it depends on what crop he is, he's done for the year.
And he a whole year, at least a whole year, at minimum a whole year has to go by, right?
Correct.
All right. So if every farm in America crop failed at the same time, it's going to take America at least minimum a year to grow new crops. That means you didn't harvest nothing. You don't have enough grain or food to last your people through the year. Mass starvation is going to happen. And then you don't get the plant again until the spring. And then you have to wait 4 or 5 months before you can harvest that crop. So you got a whole year of surviving.
So a year and a half.
And when that happens, if that happens to a whole country, which we just saw what happened in America just during the Dust Bowl, and that wasn't even the whole country. And it plunged America into a Great Depression. There were bread lines, people were starving. But so when you push that, when you look at that for a whole country, and not only did their crops fail, all their animals died, and all the fish are gone. That's mass starvation. Because
I agree, but that don't mean everybody is gonna die.
But I didn't say everybody would die. But can you admit that the economy would have crashed?
Oh, I agree with you on that. It's gonna crash.
Okay.
It's just like when we had the depression in this country before. It's gonna crash.
And we were an industrialized nation. And how long did it take America to recover?
Yeah, it's still recovering.
Well, yeah. We recovered from the Great Depression, but Just the Great Depression alone. Do you know how long it took America to actually recover from that?
I don't know the exact timeline, but I know it took years.
It took over a decade for America to recover from it. And that's what us being industrialized. That's what shipping lanes. And if it wasn't for World War II, it would have taken even longer.
Longer, right?
Egypt never experienced any of that during that time frame. And they were a less industrious, agrarian nation that depended, the whole country depended on the fish, the animals, and the crops. And you think that they just recovered in a year?
No, I'm not saying that they recovered in a year, but that's I was just making the point that recovery could happen.
Okay, but here's the problem. We don't see none of that happening during this time frame. For these 200-300 years, Egypt thrived the whole time. They grew, they expanded, they built more temples and built brand new cities. They grew. Ramses II built a whole city just to hold grain. So they were growing during this time frame, not suffering at all. So the Moses story can't be true if they did not suffer.
Well, it depends on how long did they suffer. That's my point. How long did the plagues last, and how long did they actually suffer? Because my belief is after the Hebrews allegedly left up out of Egypt, that Egypt went on and resumed as normal.
How can they? If you ain't got no plants, no animals, no fish, how you gonna resume? You gotta go through reconstruction. You gotta rebuild. And that level of destruction would have taken decades upon decades in an agrarian society to rebuild. And then other countries that depended on Egypt would have suffered as well, which would have been the entire Levant would have suffered. Remember in this story, Abraham, the Israelites go running down to Egypt twice because of a famine, right?
Correct.
And they're just right up the street. So if Egypt would have, which was the breadbasket of Mesopotamia, of the Mediterranean, if Egypt would have suffered all of that, you would have saw suffering happen in Greece, in North Africa, in the Levant, in Mesopotamia, in Turkey. All these places would have been suffering. And so it would have been a widespread collapse of society in that region. And we don't see any of that from any of the countries in that region.
Okay, so you said your belief is then that the story didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your take on the Israelites themselves? Do you believe that they were ever in Egypt, or do you believe that there was no exodus at all?
No, there was some Israelites. Okay, so after somewhere around the 13th century, 14th century BCE, you might have had some Israelites trading and going in and out of Egypt, but there was never this mass number of Israelites who were enslaved in Egypt. No. We got the Brooklyn Papyrus shows you have some northern Semitic people who were in Egypt, but that doesn't work. And then it also shows that people were migrating to Egypt at that time frame, not getting kicked out of Egypt. So no, we don't. There's nothing in history that demonstrates a large number of of Israelites ever in Egypt until you get to, you don't have a large number, and the number is still not that large until the Greeks conquer Egypt and the Levant. And then when the Ptolemy take over Egypt, that's when you start seeing larger numbers of Israelites in Egypt, and most of them were in Alexandria, Egypt, up through the Roman time frame.
So all right. So you don't believe in Rome, the story about the Romans in occupying Egypt with the Israelites?
Yeah, that's what I just said. That's when you get some Israelites in Egypt. It starts with the Greeks,
right,
and then the Romans. But this is over 1,000. This is like 1,200 to 1,500 years later, up to 1,700 years later. So this is way late. This is just before the Jesus story is told, and right after the Jesus story, and during and after the Jesus story is told. So this is far too late for a Moses story.
Okay, so then, what is your take on Moses? Did he exist or did he not exist?
No, he didn't exist.
So Moses didn't exist.
No.
If Moses didn't exist, that means 90% of the characters in the Bible,
yeah,
from Moses' point of view, did exist.
Yeah, they didn't.
That's a nice. I mean, that's what. How did you come to the conclusion Moses didn't exist?
We just went over it. I just explained all that with the fact that
I didn't catch all of it, but I caught some of your conversation. I didn't ever catch the part where you actually said how Moses didn't exist.
Well, if the Exodus never happened, then Moses never existed.
Okay, so you're basing that on the fact that the Exodus was primarily based on Moses?
The Exodus is primarily based on Moses. If you take
that's
Moses out of the story, you don't have an Exodus.
Yeah, but he can exist without the Exodus.
Then it's still just a made up story. Then the whole story is just a lie.
The story will be a lie, and they just use the character. Yeah,
that story could be a lie, and the character is most likely. And I went over this earlier. I said the wrong name earlier, but Osophasis, who was an Egyptian, who went up and led a 80,000 lepers out of Egypt, and they were kicked out, but they never went and established a kingdom. And there's nothing that connects those lepers to the Israelites. This is just an Egyptian story.
Right.
And then as far as after Moses, see, if Moses didn't exist, then the whole story of Joshua and doing all that conquering that he supposedly conquered through the Levant, none of that happened either.
Well, that's my point. If Moses didn't exist, then you got a whole problem with everything.
Yeah.
You got a problem with Jesus himself.
Yep.
David, Solomon, and all of them.
Yep. Got problems with all
that wipes out all that.
99% of it gets wiped out. That's my point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's that. I don't know. I have to do more research on the evidence to support. But
okay, so as you do your research, because I'm gonna go to the next caller. As you do your research, if the research is based on a dude named Ron Wyatt, please research Ron Wyatt before you believe what Ron Wyatt claims.
Oh yeah, well I'm a firm believer and don't believe in nobody without having concrete proof of what I'm believing in or what I'm believing.
Well, most of you, and the reason why I say that, because most of the people who are claiming proof of the Exodus is based on Ron Wyatt, and he has been proven to be a fraud over and over again. All right.
Well, I'll definitely do that.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you, Tony.
I appreciate you.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
What's your name, Tony? I see. I know I saw a couple of people before all these people. I know this person was up earlier and they're gone. And I saw, who else name did I see first? I saw that name. They're gone. Possibly, maybe something like that. Now I'm just clicking because I didn't see when the other people came on or clicked on. Let's see. Lloyd. Nope. No, it didn't pop up. Mr. Keith. Nope, Mr. Keith didn't pop up. So I didn't see. So okay. So the board is currently clear right now on TikTok. The board is clear on Facebook and YouTube as well. If you think that this story actually happened, I would love to have a conversation with you. I would love for you to demonstrate your proof that this story actually happened. Oh shit, I'm pressing the wrong thing. Let me put the link in here. Say if Moses believed the tablets were true, why did he smash them? Right. Well, he had to smash them because one of them rules said thou shalt not kill, and he was about to kill 3,000 people. So, he can't have no evidence that he ain't supposed to kill nobody, That's just being funny. And then when he's supposedly rewriting these tablets, there's like 10 more commandments. Like, don't boil your baby calf in his mother's milk. That's why when people say the 10 commandments, which ones? Which ones? There's more than one 10 commandments. I did a video about that last week. I always find, McTime, you make a great point. I always find that very interesting. McTime said that the thing that gets me is about 5 minutes after the Hebrew God emancipated them from Egypt, they build a calf to another God. What the Hebrew God does can't be that serious. And they changed the channel. I'm sorry, but if I'm living in America and some dude show up and he proves that he's from God because he do his leprosy magic trick with his hands, and then do all these plagues and saves us, and we put the lamb blood up, and he saves us, and he saves all our animals. Then he takes away the free will of the Egyptians, so they give us all their gold and all that kind of stuff. Then I see him split the Red Sea. I'm not going to get to the other side and then question this God. I'm going to be like, that's the dude. The fact that they tell the story that they get across the water and they're like, oh, yeah, well, forget this guy. Moses been gone for 40 days. We left us out here to die. Yeah, come on now. That's some bullshit. That's some creative writing there. Do you happen to know why black churches predominantly use the KJV? Always wanted to know growing up. Because that was the version of the Bible that was given to most of the black people in the South, especially in the South when you go up north and there was a lot of Catholics, but in the South it was mostly Baptists and Methodists. So the Bibles that they were given were the King James version of the Bible, and then they just stuck with that same Bible, which shows that most of them have never went and done research on the King James Bible to see that the Bibles that that the King James was translated from, like the Bishop's Bible and all these other ones, that those are some of the worst translations, and they never done the research to see that King James took things that was written on the side of the book, the scribal comments, and they added that to the Bible, to the King James version of the Bible, which you don't see that in the Septuagint or even in the Vulgate. You don't see it. So that's why if you want to use an accurate version, the New Revised Standard Updated Edition is currently the most accurate version of the Hebrew and the Koine Greek that we have. But people just use what they were given. And that's what they were given. You said, and they got kicked out. Where did they get all that gold to smelt? Remember, God took away the free will of the Egyptians to make them give their gold and stuff to the Israelites as they were leaving. Fighting atheists.
Hey, I came on already.
Yeah, you're the only one that's in the queue right now.
Yeah, hey, I agree with you that the Exodus never happened, but I have a question. How did the Egyptians, if they were talking about the Sea of Reeds, not the Red Sea, which I believe they were talking about the Sea of Reeds, how did they get away with saying that drowning all Pharaoh's army if it was a 1 inch of water? See what I'm saying? See how unbelievable that is?
Oh, it's completely unbelievable. I agree, 100%. I mean, the writers are going to write. If you're writing something at least 1,000 years after the so-called events happen, and there's no one there to check you on it, and actually the people who would have been there don't care to check you. Why would the Babylonians or the Assyrians give two shits about what you're writing about the Egyptians? And they were enemies of the Egyptians, so they wouldn't care.
But the Romans still believe that stuff.
The Egyptians were conquered by the Romans, so why would they care what you're writing negatively about the Egyptians?
Oh, I get what I'm saying.
Yeah, they would.
But why is it translated in the newer Bibles the Red Sea if it was the Sea of Reeds?
Because people just translate from whatever they got. Whatever's the common thing to accept, people just accept it. People are sheep. They just go with whatever's given to them.
And I agree that with your thing, did the Torah actually happen? Like the Adam and Eve story, there's so many flood stories around the world, it's not even funny. I believed the Adam and Eve story until I became an atheist and actually started reading the old Gilgamesh stories and stuff. And this is identical. How do people not see this in the churches, that there's identical stories like the Bible stories? They still believe the Bible and stuff, and there's stories just like it that predated the Bible stories.
Because they're sheep. So when you got pastors standing in pulpits who are screaming out what I believe Origen wrote. Origen said that because the devil knew that Jesus was going to come, he went ahead and created these other versions so that people will fall for the okie doke.
Now I get it.
So the same thing, you get pastors saying that kind of stuff, and then you just got people who just don't care to study it. Even the pastors themselves. And if you take it and say the Sea of Reeds instead of the Red Sea, then you're minimizing the miracle. Exactly.
That's exactly why I brought up the point of the drowning. There's no miracle in just walking across on dry land. Anybody, I could lead the people across dry land.
But here's the problem with that. If there's 2 million people, you got old people, you got crippled people, you got children, you got pregnant women in all stages of pregnancy. You walk them across the Red Sea, 23 miles.
Oh my God!
In one night, and they got and they got carts and animals and all this shit. And I don't know if you ever seen the topography of the bottom of any water basin of the Red Sea, even in the Gulf of Aqaba, where they say that there's this kind of a smoother land bridge, former land bridge. You ain't walking them people over that. That shit's muddy. You know, it's not like it's dry land. It's gonna be muddy as well. But you walk them across one night, 23 miles. That's some bullshit.
I don't believe the Adam and Eve story either, because if they say the flood covered the top of the highest mountains, and that was if you accept the Bible story, it was more than 40 years, but they say it's for 40 nights. Even if it does recede, there's no way that bird is going to bring back a live tree. All the trees would have drowned from the flood. There would be all dead trees. There would be no live trees. He was still blocked out. The flood was still up.
Yeah, that's not enough time for that vegetation to regrow, especially when it's not submerged with a mixture of salt and fresh water. And
how stupid do they think we are?
Well, they think you're real stupid, because you look at the tallest mountain, you look at the people on Everest. Everybody who has died on top of Mount Everest is still up there, because and it perfectly preserves their body because it's so cold and there's no air and
I never knew that.
There's no life up there. There's not even bacterial life to eat away to eat the flesh away. So if Noah's boat was higher than Mount Everest, It would not have been floating. It would have been on ice. And then everything would have died for lack of oxygen and warmth.
Yeah.
Everything. There's not one animal alive that can survive on the top of Mount Everest.
Oh, are you not pastor? Are you the atheist that said he wouldn't dispute Pastor Geno Jennings, because it's his home turf? You know who that is?
No, that wasn't me.
From the Truth of God in Christ.
That wasn't me.
Church.
Now, am I gonna drive to his church? Hell no. Better get on.
You know who he is, though?
Yeah, I know who he is.
What do you think about him? He does debates and he never loses.
Well, he never shows you that he loses. I mean, he's a pastor. He's a regular old pastor who's a little bit smarter than most of the pastors and people he debates. But at the end of the day, he would not be able to win a debate with me because I don't really care about your interpretations of the Bible. What I care about is history and facts.
Yeah.
And,
do you know who Ray Hagins is?
Yep.
What do you think about him? He was the first guy that I listened to when I first became an atheist. I didn't know that there were former pastors coming out preaching atheism now.
Yeah.
Until I saw him.
He's like 90% there. He still got a little ways to go. He still be holding church services.
Really?
Well, his services are like church services, so like, okay, you're still doing the same thing.
He's on.
I haven't listened to him in years, so I don't know what he's talking about now. So it wouldn't couldn't really speak on. But I mean, from what I remember, 90% of his stuff I'm in agreement with. That all that Kemetic shit and leaning on Kemet so much, I think that's not where you should. There's a lot more history than just Kemetic history. And
I didn't get to come on the show yesterday, but that ties into today's. You said Moses didn't exist. I agree. I agree. Jesus didn't exist either from yesterday. But if Moses didn't exist and Jesus didn't exist, which they didn't, how did they ever convince all kinds of people all the way up to today that they existed? Because majority of people still believe that they actually existed.
Guns.
How can you? Oh, really?
If I conquer you, I can make you believe whatever I want to believe.
Mm.
And Rome decided that everybody was going to be Christian in 481, and so they forced everybody to be Christian. Otherwise, they were going to kill you. So.
Oh, now I see. I was about to say, how can you convince people that a myth is true, especially when you got myths right there being taught, like right across the street from Jesus?
When the military is if we lived in a, I mean, it feels like it sometimes, but if we lived in a dictatorship, then the majority of people, because they love breathing, are going to follow whatever the dictator says.
Yeah.
And you're still going to have some people who don't, and you had people who didn't. So, but at the end of the day, that's all it is.
What's your next live going to be about? That's my last question.
I don't know. Won't know till tomorrow.
Okay. Thanks.
No problem.
Bye.
Bye. Let's see. Durante Lamar is a new young former pastor. I don't know. I don't really follow a lot of people in this realm. Mainly because I don't have time to follow all these people. Let's see. I don't have anybody in the queues right now, so let's see what comments y'all are saying here. All right. Out of Babylon says fear. Yeah. Fear will cause you to follow whatever somebody says. And people know how to utilize fear to get people to follow whatever pathway they want them to follow. Seen it happen plenty of times. Cruz.
Hey.
How you doing? Are you over 21, Cruz?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, I'm way over that.
Just
I'm
got
60.
Just got. Are you a believer in the Bible?
So yeah. No, I don't believe in secular gods. I don't believe in all these 100 and I don't know how many religions in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in any of that. And people try to crucify me all the time. And, you know, like you said, 481.
Yeah.
When I believe it was 3 generals that were fighting a war, and one of them won because he went with the Christianity.
Yeah, Theodosius.
Right. So, yeah, you know, the only thing about it that I could say is this. Christianity and Islam has been at war ever since. And I don't think that's going to change. Now, the problem is with the Islamic invasion that's going on. The problem is that if you don't...
You and I will be long dead. Even with the advancements of medical science that we probably should live until we're 150, we will be long dead before something like that could happen. But I think we'll see, we have a higher probability of seeing secularism taking over the United States before Islam would take over the United States.
Right. Well, I'm just, you know, I'm a history buff just like you. And so my uncle fought in Spain to kick the Moors out. The UK is being invaded. France is being invaded.
Your uncle?
Europe is being invaded.
Hold on.
They're coming over here. They're in Texas, Minnesota, the Northeast, you know, all the Democratic sides, right? Because that's their friend, right? So it is scary. Yeah, I don't think, you know, I think we're good, but the next generations are going to have to fight that off. I mean, you know, the founding fathers said it.
Bruh.
You got to fight for what you have. If you don't fight for what you have, they're going to take it from you.
You're right about that part, but I think you've been listening to too much MAGA stuff because they are not taking over England. They are not taking over Spain. And you say your uncle fought the Moors? When? Because the Moors were kicked out of Spain in the 1400s.
Well, okay. I guess it wasn't that war. It was the more recent one where they fought the Moors, and he was a cannoneer. He even showed me, you know, they blew off his foot. He's long gone now, but you know, that kind of makes me think, you know, because it makes sense, right? If you're my enemy and you're way stronger than me, I know I can't beat you face to face. The easiest thing for me is just to go along with what you got until I get power to take over. And that's the history of Islam. Look around the whole world. That's how they've been doing it, right?
No.
No.
Where has Islam come in and conquered and took over?
I mean, they did it in Spain. They were in Spain for a long time. And it was the Christians, the Muslims, and the Jews. They were actually living together for a long time.
Yeah, they lived together for a long time, but this was a conquest based on the fact that they had conquered all of the Levant, all of North Africa, and then went over to the Iberian Peninsula and conquered the Iberian Peninsula. But since that time frame, they haven't went into any country and conquered some country, you know, since the 1400s. And I'm gonna have to
change the word. I'm gonna have to change the word conquer. Because it's not really, they don't go in there and fight and conquer and take over. That's not what they do. They just move into your neighborhood. They start having a whole bunch of babies, because if I believe in the Quran, I could have 20 wives if I can afford them, and I can make 100 babies, right? So slowly, they're populating, and that's what they do. They just populate. It takes a long time,
My guy.
But once they get to where they're getting to, that's it. It's too late.
My guy. There are 400 million people in the United States. A very small number of them are Muslims. It would take probably 100 generations for them to outpace the current American population who are not Muslims. That is, see, when I talked about fear a few minutes ago,
I got you. I agree.
That's that fear thing that people are using in order to generate them staying in power. Like, I live in Texas, right? So I'm seeing all these advertisements.
True.
And the number of Muslims in Texas would not win in 2026 in any election. But they're utilizing that fear to galvanize a whole bunch of Republicans to jump on and come out and vote because the Muslim invasion is happening. And it's just not happening. And as far as your uncle, the last time Spain fought a civil war was in the 1930s, and that was against the Nazis. That wasn't against the Mormons.
Okay, all right. So I'm gonna have to look it up. I'm gonna have to look to see what my.
I mean, I said Mormons, but I meant Moors. I meant Moors. So now let me tell you what I'm thinking that you're thinking about. The coup, that the military uprising began in Spanish Morocco, but Morocco was a colony of Spain at the time frame. So the coup started in Spanish Morocco and it spread to the mainland and it divided the country, which is why when you go to Spain, you can see people representing two different flags. Three. You'll see them. They'll have their regular national flag, but then they may have another flag for their region. But this was never a Moorish Muslim invasion. This was Spanish people on Spanish people, Christian on Christian. They just based themselves out of Morocco, which was owned by Spain.
Okay, all right. I'm that part of it. I don't have the information, so I can't talk on that. But what you talk about fear, and it's true. Politicians, they're all the same. They use fear. They use the tactics. But what I'm seeing is, I just saw a communist person get elected to mayor of New York City.
He's not communist.
There is a socialist / communist mayor of Chicago.
He's okay. The mayor of New York, Magdani, is not a communist, dude.
He's a communist. He's a communist.
Oh my God.
You know why I know he's a communist?
Why?
Because when my parents were in Cuba, and Castro walked in, and everybody gave him a pat on his back. He didn't even have to fight. Why? Because the people believe the bullshit. Okay. And look where Cuba is at.
Fidel Castro is in nowhere comparison to Magdani. So when did
Magdani came in with a smile? I smiled just like
Trump, just like Trump did. Just like Trump did. Just like Trump.
Hold on a second. I'm not a Trump lover. Let's get away from that. But
okay, but my point is no. But so if you're gonna hate communists, hate actual communists, because the thing about it, when has Magdani said anything about the government taking over every business and industry in New York?
We're not there yet. When they take over, what they do, first step, nationalize everything, take away everybody, whatever everybody has. They'll take away all your money.
When has what is it? Dude, I can't. I can't. I don't mind having political banter, but not when you're just running off Fox News statements. You have no proof whatsoever. No disrespect to you. Shit, I forgot the damn name. Young man. Well, he said he's 60. No disrespect to you, but you're gonna have to come better. You gotta come with some facts behind this. I'm not gonna I wouldn't care if you was against the Democrats or against the Republicans. Because if somebody came up here and they were like, well, Trump this and Trump that, if you're just saying stuff without proof, without something that leads to it, I'm not going to tolerate it. You know, I hear a lot of people, they'll talk about Trump and they'll be like, oh, Trump's a fascist, Trump's this, Trump's that. I'm going to ask you, what is it? Tell me, give me some policies, give me something other than your feelings. And certainly don't give me a bad comparison. It's not that I want to support any politician, but I need facts. Facts. Not media quotes. Because do you really think the billionaire, millionaire class of New York is going to let Mamdani take over their businesses? Do you really think Mamdani is going to be able to get away with that in New York? Them 100 millionaires, billionaires will take care of him in a militaristic way. Let me put it that way. Before they allow him to take their businesses. They got too much money for Mamdani to come in there and take. There are too many other national companies that are headquartered in New York that would allow him to just take their businesses. Yeah, they be pumping that fear in y'all like a champ. In order to do that, first you got to have a scapegoat. You got to scapegoat somebody first. But that ain't gonna work. Issa.
Hey, brother, how you doing?
Pretty good.
Yeah, man, I've been watching your content for a while, man. I enjoy your content. I'm a Muslim, by the way.
All right. Thank you for letting me know.
I always enjoy your content, man. You know, some people.
Wait a minute, hold on for one second.
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you're talking to me, IBM Dash, at no point did I say that I support Trump. I support facts. Now, you may not be talking about me, but that's cool. I may have been mistaken. I just happened to see that out the corner of my eye. But I'm sorry. Go ahead, Issa.
Oh, yeah. But no, I was just seeing like the comments, like some people like, yeah, the Muslims want Sharia law here. Like, bro, we don't care about Sharia law in America, bro. I don't want no Sharia law here. Like,
they're not talking about you. They're not talking about you. They're talking about Arabs. You're not Arab, are you?
No, I'm not an Arab. I'm foundational Black American freedman. I'm from Chicago, brother.
See, they talking about the Arabs.
Yeah.
I know I interrupted you, but that's one point that I didn't bring up. But the American Muslims who are not Arabs or don't have any ties to the Arab countries, they ain't gonna put up with that bullshit.
Well,
Much
you know,
less
I'm not
every other American.
Yeah, but number one, I'm not a Sunni Muslim anyway. You know, so I could the hell with Saudi Arabia. You know what I'm saying? The Quran calls the Arabs barefoot Bedouins and said that they're deaf, dumb, and blind. This is the Lord calling them that. You know what I'm saying? So I never get why people always, especially Muslims, put the emphasis on the Arabs. Those same Arabs slaughtered the Prophet Muhammad's family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you know what I'm saying? I don't want Sharia. I think for me, and this is just my personal opinion, you know, I focus on the youth as far as, you know, dealing with everyday people and like teaching. But like, shoot, bro, America is its own lost cause, bro. Ain't nothing you really can do for it's too far gone. It's too much filth. It's just too much everything. It don't even matter about religion. You know what I'm saying? It's just too much negativity of all kinds over here. The best thing we could do is teach the youth and pray that they avoid the negativity. But hell no, bro. Like we got the most.
I'm sorry. One point that you just said. Now, what generation are you?
Oh, 89 borderline, baby, man. I'm a young brother.
Oh, you borderline. You close enough to us Gen Xers. My thing is, and I did a video about this a while back, because all these old bastards who are in public office right now, they need to go.
Mm-hmm.
And Gen X has failed. We got caught in the middle. Gen X got caught in the middle of, you work for the company, you get to go watch. But then the company said, fuck you and your go watch. So we had to in the middle of our adulthood, recarve out a life for ourselves, right? To raise our children. And we did not get as politically involved as other generations. We need some Gen X mentality up there in Congress, Senate, at all levels. Because these fuckers, especially this current dude, you know, as I've said on many videos before, this current dude, it ain't about Republican or Democrat. This current dude is psychopathic, narcissistic, and is illegal as hell, is breaking all kinds of rules. And nobody's standing up to him. The old people don't want to do it, and young people ain't strong enough yet. So I'm with you with this young people, but all us in our 50s, in late 40s, 50s, and early 60s need to get in office.
Yeah, but you gotta understand. Well, you know, a lot of those people that are in the office, bro, they were alive and cognitive and past maturing age when Jim Crow and all of that was going on. You know what I'm saying? These is the same people. You know what I mean? So like, my best thing is like, bro, we focus on the future. But through my studies, bro, and studying very hardly, I know who is really at the top. And you know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna go too much deeper into that, but you know who is really at the top. And to keep it real, frankly, bro, if you ain't really ready for like a revolution type, spill blood type, bro, you ain't never gonna seize that power. Because they ain't never gonna come up off of it. And they have no problems with doing illegal things, whether it's physically, whether it's civilly, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So like, I think it's gotten too far, bro. And the people were asleep for too long for it not to be like a, no offense, but a bloody revolution type. Because the people that, come on, bro, the people at the top is, I'm gonna watch my words on the stream, but they diddling.
You ain't gotta watch your words on my stream. You gotta watch your words on my stream.
I know how YouTube is, brother, and I like your channel. I don't want them to flag you for no reason. But they diddling toddlers, bro. This is what we dealing with, bro. The sickest of the sick. This is who ruling. This is who got access to the nuclear codes. This is who got, you know, power to send this force here and this force here. And us as a people, bro, we dropped the ball. Like versus like from in the 60s when, bro, we wasn't playing that. They don't tell you about the history about it because you old enough, brother, but they don't tell most people about the history about freedmen hijacking planes and stuff in the 50s and the 60s, like what we really was on. They don't give you that story. You know what I'm saying? So like, you know, and I'm not telling nobody to go do that. I'm just saying the people as a unit, as a whole, were more willing to get down as a whole. I'm not talking about individuals, you know what I'm saying? This is just for the people out there. I'm just saying as a whole. But now, bro, you know how much training it would take for us to really like, dude, you ain't even gonna be fighting nobody. You gonna be fighting drones. Well, like for real, you're not even gonna be fighting nobody.
I'm with you, but there's a okay. So back in the 90s, we did these operations. If there was a civil war in America, right? If there was another civil war, and the operations didn't really, and it was a think tank type of operation. It really wasn't based on civilians fighting civilians. It was based on what would happen to the American military if a civil war were to happen. Right? The biggest issue that you're going to have is that the military itself was split.
Right.
You're gonna have this big hodgepodge. It ain't gonna just be black and white. Spanish people are gonna be kind of split down the middle. Some on the, you know, so you're gonna have Spanish people who side with black people, Spanish people, and it was based on race for the most part. It really came down to race and politics. Now, most of your military personnel at that time frame, over half of them were Republicans because, well, voted Republicans because Democrats was fucking us over with the money. Like I had so many Marines who were on food stamps under Clinton. You know,
yeah, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
So that's crazy.
So a lot of us lean towards Bush during those time frame because we was like, Bush is giving us a 4%, 4.9%, 5% pay raise. Clinton trying to give us a 1.9. So we was like, fuck you, Clinton. I'm just giving you the mentality of what was going on at that time frame. I don't know how it's going on right now.
Okay.
But when we looked at it, the military will be thrown in uproar because of the position that a lot of people, and that's where the race comes in. A lot of people who were black, for instance, they were on ground forces. They controlled a lot of the armories and things of that nature. The air was 99.9% controlled by Caucasians, right? So the estimation was that the U.S. military would have to fight its own civil war first before siding with any type of civilian situation.
Right.
But the entire thing will most likely be resolved based on which side of the military wins, not so much fighting the civilians. Because as you know, civilians don't stand a freaking chance.
Nah, not with military grade weapons. It's over.
You don't stand a chance.
Not the stuff now.
I can take a battalion of Marines and I can take the whole city of Atlanta. Easy. Just with a
you talking about they using sound waves to disrupt you, bro. You can't even think.
And mind you, we had that in the 90s.
Yeah, it's just way improved now.
Yeah, it's way improved and people didn't know. You know, we had Humvee mounted sonic weapons. But now you got I would imagine now you probably got handheld levels of sonic weapons.
Yeah.
I imagine. I don't know because I'm not there no more.
Well, you know, anything could be miniaturized, just like they, instead of one giant nuke, now they got tactical nukes. Now we can just nuke a certain spot and control the blast.
Yeah. And trust and believe, the president, yeah, he got the football and everything, but he just can't order a nuclear strike. It ain't like he can just open up a briefcase.
You gotta have the generals with him. The generals really got the power.
Exactly. And then below the generals, at each nuclear silo, ship, submarine, you got captains and colonels.
Yeah.
Any one of them can say hell no.
But see, this is my thing, though. This is what takes the cake, right? Those very special people over there that's involved with a whole ruckus right now, bro. They power go long. It go long. It really do. Like it just do. If anybody don't know, the last true president to oppose these special people, his name was JFK, and he wanted to make the super PAC for those special people register as a foreign organization, and he also didn't want those special people to have nuclear weapons. And we see what happened to him. So those people, like, bro, I've never seen somebody, and this is just like throughout my whole life of just looking at this, like, bro, they pull all the strings. I mean, all the strings. They literally got the whole US in a war that really ain't got nothing to do with them.
It really don't. We should,
and
we really shouldn't. We shouldn't have ever attacked Iran. That's a bunch.
But that's how powerful they are. I remember one time. This is how I really knew. Like, I've been new, but it just was like evident for me. They talking to Trump and they talking to Bibi, right? And they asked Trump. They like, man, so is it over? Is the war over? And he like, that should be a question for Bibi. And I'm like, hold on, bro. You, the president of the most powerful country in the United States, why is you deflecting? Like, bro, they literally made, you know what I'm saying? They be putting spyware in toilets on Congress members. They literally just settlers kidnapped the U.S. Congress member, what is his name? Rohana. They literally took him by gunpoint and kidnapped him. Can't no other country do that in the world. to an American congressman without some consequences, but they can because they really the ones who run everything. I used to be like, yo, Kanye, he tripping. But one video he had where he showed all the TV channels, sports channels, corn, all the stuff that they control, including the banking and all of that. And I'm like, damn. Like, bro, and now it's to the point where I be telling my white friends, like, bro, listen, y'all thought y'all was racist. It's somebody here to out racist y'all now. Cause ain't nothing than them people over there. What? They don't care. They don't care who you is, they'll spit on you. Like, but goodness gracious.
It's interesting.
Over there. And they smoked him. They spit on him and everything. He came back and said, I only got spit on one time. I said, boy, listen, boy, I'd be dead. They'd have had to smoke me.
Oh yeah, I spent a total of 8 weeks in Israel. Now personally, I never had any problems while I was there. Never experienced anything negative while I was there, so I can't really speak to that. And that was back in the 90s, so I can't really say how things are now. I've seen tons of videos where they go to other countries and they act like asses, and even in their own country, I've seen them like kick that nun and she almost bust her head wide open. Little kids.
Oh yeah, I think that was crazy. I was like, yo, a nun, bro. Yeah, everybody to run up and beat up, bro. The nun, bro, with the Catholic girl church socks on, bro. Come on, bro.
Yeah. So even as much as I disagree with religions, and this is one of the reasons why, because religion creates these kinds of mentality with people. Not everybody, of course, but it does create these types of mentalities. It's crazy that people would treat another human being this way simply because they don't believe what you believe.
And then, like, my thing is, if you believe your faith is true, right? Because I study my Quran. My Quran tells me that when you die, God is going to let all of you know where you differentiate. So until that time, debate with good discourse. Other than that, bro, it has to be settled after you die. You can't believe the Quran says there's no compulsion in religion. So that you cannot force anybody to believe in anything. You know what I'm saying? By force. You know what I'm saying?
Now, I haven't read the Quran in about 30 years, but I do remember there's some coercion in the Quran now. It's like you tax the shit out of people.
No, listen, no offense, right? No offense, right? The jizya tax, right, that's leveled on non-Muslims in an Islamic state, right? Because I'm very knowledgeable on my faith, is 2.5%. Bruh, every American in this chat room in America pays way more than 2.5%.
I can't, but see, I can't let that slide because you're taxing. Everybody pays taxes in America. Shoot, fine, and we're paying way more. That's fine, but that's not a justification because of the lower amount. The simple fact that I'm going to tax you if you're Muslim, I'm going to not tax you if you're not. That's coercion.
But see, that's not coercion toward. I'm not trying to get you to convert or anything. It's 2.5%. Listen, if you live,
implied.
Listen, no, it's not implied. If you live in an Islamic territory, and I'm just saying how the Prophet and the Imams laid it down. If you live in an Islamic territory, the non-Muslims pay 2.5%. They don't have to pay the Muslim taxes like we have to pay in our own religion, which brings it up to about 7%. They don't have to pay none of that. That's the only thing in an Islamic territory that they have to pay. So if we're living in a true Islamic state, and I say a true Islamic state, not this bull crap that the Sunni Gulf states got going on over there. If we live in a true Islamic state and you get charged 2.5% for being under the protection of an Islamic state, I pay more taxes than you because I'm a Muslim in the Islamic state. The law says that if we ever get attacked, you're not obligated to fight. You pay your tax, you're not obligated to fight. It is the Muslim's job to protect you in case anything goes wrong. Just like here, we pay plenty of taxes here. If you want to forget the Muslim title, if you're an American citizen, you're going to pay taxes to the state. If anybody comes to mess with you, then this state is responsible for protecting you. It's the same thing. And in the true Islamic state, you would pay 2.5% and nothing else. But we don't have that right now. We have a lot of posers. We got kings and monarchs and, you know what I'm saying, nepotism all around the Islamic world.
I don't know as much about the Quran. I just know when I studied it 30 years ago, I was like, this ain't for me either. So
and listen,
I don't know exactly how those taxations work. As far as I knew you get taxed if you're not Muslim.
Yeah. But I just want to ask anybody here, would you rather pay the American taxes, right? And they gave you a choice, or pay 2.5% in taxes and that was it? Which one would you choose?
I mean, of course, if you're looking at your pocket, you're going to pay the less tax. But
right. That's what I'm saying.
That's why I don't pay taxes. I haven't paid taxes in a long time.
Yeah, he said, that brother said, bump that.
Pay American taxes other than sales tax. But,
right.
And I got so far off the subject matter. I got into all these politics.
I'm sorry, brother. I was excited to get up here to finally speak to you because I always watch the show. And when people get mad over your, you know what I'm saying, your opinion from your research, from what you done, bro, I'm like, bro, you can't get mad at that brother opinion, man. You know what I'm saying? I can see if the brother was disrespecting you and your faith and your religious figures and way of life and was saying, you know, your prophet or your holy man can kiss this or kiss that. I'm like, the brother ain't doing none of that. The brother is taking his own and what we call akul in Islam, which is your own analogical reasoning.
All right. Let me ask you a question though about Islam.
Okay.
What about the beheading of people who are not Islamic?
That is a pure Sunni, and I wouldn't even say Sunni. I would say extreme Sunni thing. You never, bro, I'm a Shia Muslim, by the way.
Okay.
But that's not a Shia thing to behead you. There's no verse in the Quran that says to behead somebody. You know what I'm saying? That's a personal thing. And not only a personal thing, that's a cultural thing. Because the Arabs have been doing, that's been their practice before even the advent of Islam. You know what I'm saying? So it's more of a cultural practice. But the prophet never beheaded anybody.
All right. So when I look at, I'm just looking up some stuff real quick. So in Surah Muhammad 47:4. So when you meet a disbeliever, strike next until you have thoroughly subdued them, then bind them firmly. Later, an act of grace or by ransom until the war comes to an end. So I guess this is somebody in battle. When you're fighting somebody in battle.
And this is the thing, right? 1 second, just to pause you real quick. I love how you immediately deduced it like, oh, this is when you're in battle. I love that. You know what I'm saying? Because most people say, oh, look, the Quran says to kill the non-believers. Like, no, it does not say. There's another verse that says, strike them and smite them wherever you find them. But if they desist, then you desist. So that verse right there is telling you that you are being oppressed or attacked by somebody. And just like any logical human being, I'm going to put these hands on you or whatever I got to do until you stop. And then I'm going to stop. That's just common sense.
So I do see the one that you're talking about. And that one seems to be when you're in battle again. You're fighting a war against somebody. Okay, so you still have to understand, from me, in my perspective, that's going to be something that I still find offensive.
And listen, brother,
because
I don't have no problem with that, brother. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Because everybody got a different. Like, bro, I grew up gang banging on the south side of Chicago, brother. Just being honest, I'm not gonna sit up here like I'm some type of saint or any of that. So, and I'm gonna give you an Islamic analogy of, and equate that to that. One of the analogies that is actually what we call makruh or frowned upon to be a butcher. Not that there's nothing wrong with being a butcher, but this is the reason why. Is when you're around so much death in whatever form, it desensitizes you to death, violence, whatever. It don't matter what form it is, even in the form of animal slaughter. You know what I'm saying? So like me growing up on the south side of Chicago and seeing all the stuff I seen, the next person, when they hear a stringent verse or something like that, they might take offense. Me, some of my earliest memories is people brains being blown out and hanging out the side of the car with half of their head. So I've become desensitized to that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Throughout my life. So no offense taken, brother. If it offends you, brother, listen, I'll try my best to explain it. And that's all I can do.
Oh, I mean, I'm with you, but there's no way to explain that away from me because, yeah, I'm a product of the Geneva Convention. Just because I'm in battle with somebody, if I don't have to kill them, I'm not going to kill them. And certainly not based on whether or not they believe in the same religion I believe in. See, that's another part of it that throws me.
But it's not belief, though.
If I'm fake,
your belief is not required.
No,
the only thing that is required.
A non-believer. It says it's a non-believer. You're in battle, and you fight against a non-believer. Then you're to cut off their head.
Listen, no, it did not say cut off their heads.
Yes, it says
when you're in battle.
It says strike them on the neck, man.
Yeah, but you got to understand, bro. There weren't no pistols back then. So when you're in battle, you had swords, bro. And the kill point in a battle, in an old school battle, would be to strike at the neck. That's just what it is. Just like if the Quran was revealed now.
Not necessarily, because
not necessarily, but I'm just saying that's one of the points right there.
I was under a lot of commands where we did a lot of ancient history, military ancient history. And I can, plenty of times if you cut a person's leg off, cut a person's arms off, stab them in the stomach,
they'll bleed out. You hit your main artery. No,
they don't necessarily bleed out. I mean, hell,
or you can get infected. You know what I'm saying? Especially back then, medical technology.
But when you intentionally strike somebody across the neck, that's a kill shot. That's not a wound shot. That's not anything of that nature. So but it specifically says believers, non-believers rather.
Right. But you have to understand too
that you're supposed to strike them on the neck.
When that verse was revealed, the only thing that you had in that area was either believers or non-believers.
Okay, so that still doesn't make it any better. Because
I mean, I understand that, but like I said, bro, we got two different. Like for me, bro, like I said, I've been desensitized a little bit. So if a person come at me, bro, listen, bro, I'm gonna peel your muffin cap back blue, bro, and have no problem with it. You know what I'm saying?
You must be my age.
You said what, brother?
No, I ain't think you heard him. I said you must be my age. I ain't heard nobody say that in a long ass time.
No, I just, I gotta watch it because it's the YouTube, brother. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I won't flag a channel for any reason. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just saying, like, if a person, and I expect the same thing, bro. I'm 6'3", 305 pounds, and I'm athletic, bro. If I come at you or your family, especially a smaller individual, you supposed to bust my head in order to protect yourself and your family. Don't give a dang what the Geneva Convention say. The only thing is your big self is on me and my family, and I gotta protect mine. So if you smite my neck and you peel my stuff back, hey, listen, that's on me for being an oppressor.
I understand.
And I wouldn't expect nothing else from anybody else.
I'm almost out of time, so let me see if I can get a couple more people before I go.
Yes, sir, brother. Love your
I got to
content,
get into
man.
the gym just in case I run against your 6'3", 305-pound
Oh
ass.
no, brother, I ain't like that, man. I don't bother nobody that don't bother me,
Big,
man. I live by my Quran. To you,
big
your way, and to me, mine.
WWE
I ain't
fan.
trying to force nothing on nobody.
Big WWE motherfucker.
Hey, I
Yeah.
love you, brother, man. Keep going,
All right.
man. I'm always gonna support you. I'm back in the shadow.
All right. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I don't know as much about the Quran, so I can't really talk about that one as deeply. That was a short study back 30 years ago. I did see somebody make a comment about me not paying attention to how the leftists. No, I recognize that. I don't know where your brain is at on that one. The Sunni or Shiites, whichever one took over Iran, you're talking about a country where it's predominantly Muslim. So with a predominantly Muslim country, you can have the more fanatical Muslims take over. You cannot compare them taking over Iran in the same way that people are saying that they're going to take over the United States. That's apples and oranges. That's not critically thinking through the process. That's emotions. I saw that comment a while back, but that's some emotion bullshit. You see, Joshua's waiting a long time. Y'all know my wife gonna be home in a little bit, so you know what that means. Where are we going to? It's gym time. I gotta get in shape for this 305, 6'3" joker. Because I ain't under the Geneva Convention no more. So I guess all those people didn't hold long enough. Yeah. I don't know. And then if I knew that all those other people were gone, I would have asked them about slavery too, because that's the biggest turnoff that I saw in the Quran was the slavery. Even though the slavery in Islam is better because you have to provide a way for that person to gain their freedom. The fact that any God would say chattel slavery is okay, there ain't no way I'm going to support that religion. So it was the slavery part that made me just turn the Quran. Like, oh, I'm good. I'm done. But I would have asked him about that one if I knew. Don't come back up right now because my wife get off in a few minutes. And we're going to the gym today. I know she's watching. We're going to the gym, woman. We skipped yesterday. We're going today. Roy Thompson. I think it said Thompson. Yeah, Roy Thompson Jr. Yeah, that's right. I don't want no smoke with you. Roy Thompson Jr. I guess Roy Thompson Jr. is not there. It might have been an accident. And I didn't get into the conversation with him because it would have been interesting to have a conversation since somebody else was earlier talking about how Muslims see the story of the Old Testament. To get an actual Muslim to talk about it would have been different. What makes you believe God doesn't exist? Research. If there was a God that does exist, then none of the gods of none of these books would be that God. All these gods are made up that are in every book. Hindu, Muslim, all the Abrahamic, Christian, Judaism, all of them are made up. They looked at nature, called it a god, and then they developed their stories after that. They gave praise to the rocks, then praise to the animals, and praise to the stars and the sun and the moon and all the other bodies that they saw in the sky. And then they converted that to a pantheon of gods, and then they converted that to a one God, and then they converted that in Christianity to a messenger of God, and Islam a messenger of God, even though they don't worship Muhammad according to their claim. But all this stuff has a trail that shows that it's false. that is just man-made, making up shit because they didn't understand what was going on, and then turned into control mechanisms. Age of consent over there is like 12. It depends on what country. It depends on what, and I don't know from, I'm talking, I can only speak to that for like 30 years ago. As far as what countries allow for the child brides. January 6th was in. Yeah, that shit was a fucking revolt. Motherfuckers should be treated as treasons. They should have been treated as traitors. Not treated like Reconstructionist Southerners. And this is a statement that I found very true. Believers and non-believers differentiate between religions. For example, if one is Muslim, a Christian would call that person a non-believer. And that's one of the things. If you are a Muslim, you're an atheist to Christianity. If you're a Christian, you're an atheist to Islam. And Pascal's wager don't work. Because you're going to go to Muslim hell if you're a Christian and you don't believe in Allah. But let me go ahead and call it a day today. I gotta, because I need to do some stuff, handle this business situation before my wife gets home. Did you get to cover the military merge with favorite ally? I don't know what you mean by that, Jay. Like in my mind, I'm thinking about how we work with other militaries. We on our bases, we have other militaries on our base. Is that what you're talking about? But we still don't follow the command of other militaries, other countries. Yeah, there's no way American militias, organized militias, could overtake the United States. That's crazy work. But that kind of fear keeps people in power. I'm telling you, you can give me a battalion of Marines from 30 years ago, like what the armament we had 30 years ago. And I'm here in San Antonio, and we could take San Antonio and hold it. And as Marines, we hold it. Then we let the Army come in, and the Army maintains it. Easy work. Easy work. American militias would get decimated by the military. Don't stand a chance in hell. We ain't got to use jets, just helicopters. Shit, we ain't got to use helicopters. We can just come in with tanks and armored vehicles. No way they're voting to merge Israel with the American military. That'll never happen. That's never going to happen. That's not going to happen. That ain't going to happen. I can't see a bill getting passed through Congress that merges the American military with the Israeli military. Now, I don't know how military people are today, other than like my son. But I can tell you that we get out. I'd be like, hell no. I'd be damned. Shit, just being under NATO was a pain in the ass. Being under NATO was like such a pain in the ass. You know, find yourself in a combat situation and the motherfucker trying to call up to NATO command trying to find out if we can fire back. Hell no. You think I waited? I ain't wait. Told that little butter bar to sit your ass down. We finna handle this business. Sit up here waiting for you to get a response back from SHAPE as to whether or not we can return fire when them motherfuckers not shot towards us. Hell, you crazy. No. The American military mentality would never fit under most of the country's rules of engagement. It just wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. Yeah, we did get conned into this whole Iran thing. we not got conned into other military action, but there's always some secret shit going on, some other shit going on behind the scenes. And as they always say, follow the money. If you want to know why we in Iran, follow the money. Because there were no problems with Iran. And then, but if you follow the money, you can see why we went in Iran. Follow the money. I always tell you the story. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in, where the true God of this world is money. Money, 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 money. Like some of the shit I saw during Desert Storm, I was like, oh, no, this is why we over here. No damn weapons of mass destruction, it's money. Why we didn't get involved with Rwanda? Wasn't no money in it. Wasn't no money in it. That whole bullshit of Monroe Doctrine, that was some bullshit reason why we didn't get involved with Rwanda. It was no money in it. That's why we didn't get involved, other than humanitarian efforts. And if that was the case, we should have never got involved with Bosnia. They had a little bit of money in that one. And not just gold, my guy. The artifacts that were taken out of Iraq. That's all I'm going to say. Artifacts. I saw plenty of shipments of artifacts coming out of Iraq. And now they're in museums in Britain, in England, the United States, and France. Like I said, let me get off here. I will see you guys tomorrow around 2 o'clock. I'll see you guys tomorrow around 2 o'clock for another discussion. I hope you guys all have a great day and enjoy the rest of your day. It's 100-something degrees here in San Antonio, so we actually, I don't know if she want to go to the gym immediately or she want to wait for it to cool off a little bit. Like hot hell. It's hot. Even with the air conditioning and multiple fans in my garage, it's a little warm. It's a little warm. So y'all have a great day, and always remember, you got to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations, and we are signing off.